Okay. Hello, everybody. It is October 23rd, 2024, and this is the Eric Johnson Space and Rocket Review. You two girls, tell your friends. Okay. Guys, I will spare you the pleasantries. You may dispense with the pleasantries, chat. I'm here to put you back on schedule. All right. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna go right here, and we're gonna go right into Crew 8 Undocking. This is Crew 8 Undocking from the ISS. That's how we're gonna start Space News today. We're gonna start with coverage there, and let's go. So, Crew 8 is undocking from the International Space Station after being... Okay.
Perfect. And that
after being relieved by Crew 9, which launched 2 weeks ago.
The spacecraft has entered the approach ellipsoid. That's the 2 by 2 by 4 kilometer sphere around the International Space Station that teams use to monitor arriving and departing spacecraft. So over the last 8 months, Crew 8 has had what I like to call a astronaut's eye view from the space station. They've had an opportunity to capture some pretty amazing views from low Earth orbit. One of the photos that we got was with the space station being about 250 miles above Earth. They're too far away to make things out like cars, people, or buildings, but what they can see are other landmarks around the world. And the long camera lenses they use help zoom in on familiar sights from our home planet. On September 19th, the crew captured a celestial sight with comet C2023A3 rising through the atmospheric edge towards the sun. The crew had been watching the tail structure evolve over the last little while. And here's another long exposure shot. This was taken on August 11th above the Indian Oceans as star glitter from above. Such a beautiful aurora. And now finally, another iconic shot of the Italian peninsula, or what many of us know as...
I was going to say that's not the Indian Ocean, but...
Of course, we get satellites, collect imagery of Earth too, but the International Space Station is unique in viewing these opportunities because astronauts and cosmonauts can tell scientists on the ground what they are observing and what stands out in real time. So they'll have a few more opportunities to take in those views during their flight home as we prepare for undocking coming up here at about 4:05 p.m. Central, 2:05 p.m. Pacific. But in the meantime, I'm going to toss it back over to you, Jesse, and Sandra, and Hawthorne.
Awesome. Thanks, Nilüfer. Separation is set for approximately 2:05 p.m. Pacific time or 5:05 p.m. Eastern time, which is just under 8 minutes from now. At the moment, Dragon is in its final configuration before undocking, and we are waiting for mission operators. They've already completed their go, no-go poll, but they will call out if we will be moving forward with the undocking procedure shortly.
And as we mentioned earlier, just like during its approach to the space station, Dragon's departure and deorbit is designed to be fully autonomous, which requires no action from the crew on board. Departure is typically a little bit faster and sometimes easier since the crew doesn't have to stop at any waypoints like we see when a spacecraft arrives.
Once the undocking sequence is complete, Dragon will use its Draco thrusters to move away from the station in a series of 4 departure burns, which are carefully choreographed maneuvers that will increase the distance between the spacecraft and the space station. And then from there, a phasing burn will place Dragon on a trajectory to align it with the splashdown site.
I never thought I'd say this, but let's switch to X.
Once that happens, it will take less than 5 minutes for Dragon to separate from the International Space Station, which has been its home for the last 7 months.
An awful idea.
At the planned undock time, SpaceX Mission Control will command the undock sequence start, which begins the automatic undocking process. Now, the first step is for the umbilicals to retract. These umbilicals connect Dragon systems to the space station, transferring power, telemetry.
Undock sequence commanded.
Okay. So, undock sequence commanded. What's going to happen is the docking latch mechanism, which is it's NDS. It's called NASA Docking System. There are 12 hooks that basically hold Dragon to the space station in a circular configuration, right? 6 of them are going to release, and then 6 of them, the other 6 are going to release. They switch every other one of them. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 around the horn again. Similar to like if you're tightening a tire onto a car, like with lug nuts. There's a pattern. They're undoing the hooks in sequence, and in 5 minutes, should see an undock, or less than that, actually, at this point.
Again, another good call out there that the umbilicals have been demated. And then Dragon will be ready to depart from the space station once those hooks have been unlatched and begin to move itself further and further away using its thrusters.
That's right. And while we sometimes do have views of the undocking as it takes place, we aren't expecting those today just due to handover between our satellites. That happens from time to time, but we might get some views throughout the broadcast towards the end once we get past that time period. So Dragon's initial departure from the International Space Station is a little different from other docked spacecraft like the Soyuz, which rely on springs to push them away from the docking port. Dragon will execute 2 short thruster firings to undock using a combination of the 12 Draco thrusters around the base of the spacecraft, with the first 2 breaking any stiction between Dragon and the docking port, and the second slowly backing the spacecraft away. We're expecting that call for the undocking sequence. Well, we actually did hear that call for the undocking sequence already, so we're well underway here and expecting the actual physical separation to occur in 4 minutes at 2:05 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, and with Dragon getting ready for undocking, let's go back to Nilüfer in Mission Control at Johnson
Falcon
Space
9
Center
parts.
to take us through undocking.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sandra. So we just heard that we are going through the undocking commands, and they have been sent up. So we'll take a look at the umbilical retraction as that is ready. That should probably take just about a few minutes. Once the umbilical hook is disconnected, Dragon will be relying entirely on its own power sources from batteries generated through solar cells instead of taking power and telemetry from the space station. On console today, we have Flight Director Paul Kanya that is managing the room here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room.
Okay. Hey, and it's Neil Nagata. All right. That guy was watching.
And we just heard the call out of the first set of hooks being opened.
That guy was watching Starbase Live during the Starliner launch. He had it on his laptop. No joke.
We'll now look for the umbilical retraction and look for 2 sets of 6 hooks. So this is going to be the second set of 6 hooks that will open, and that will take just a few minutes. Again, the first set of hooks have begun to open, and there are 2 sets of hooks with 6 each, for a total of 12 hooks in all that will be open today.
Should be getting a signal, or should be getting a confirmation of undocking here within 60 seconds.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
So as we await confirmation, there on your screen you see, as I mentioned, Flight Director Paul Kanya, and beside him Capcom, which is Neil Nagata today.
See?
They are the primary folks in Mission Control Houston here
gloves.
communicating
Keep doing what
with
you're
the
doing.
crew
Right on,
where
man.
necessary.
I'm trying, dude. I'm trying. Thank you for the resub, man. So, like I said, that dude that's sitting down, the capsule communicator.
All hooks open.
Oh, there we go. He was watching Starbase Live.
Perfect.
Starliner's
That was the
launch.
call we were waiting for, with all 12 hooks now open.
We saw it on the camera. Yeah, I don't think he's watching today.
Next
I
up,
think he's
Dragon
focusing
will
on his job.
execute A short
Dragon
burn
separation
just
confirmed.
before separation.
Okay, good separation.
And there was the call we were waiting for. This is a combination of
Endeavour departing. Fair winds and falling seas and Miyaki Pisaki, my friends.
They were ringing the bell for a departing spacecraft, guys.
Long Dragon. The circle will never be the same without you.
I thought somebody dropped something. I'm like, it sounds like something
good
fell.
words from our
But
crew
then
members
again,
departing space station right now.
Dragon, it's been an absolute pleasure to serve aboard the space station and stay on the watch. It's in great hands. Godspeed.
Kojo, you'll never guess what I found.
So next up, Dragon will execute.
Roger.
Didn't hear what she said. The PAO talked over.
Thank you.
So Dragon, as I've been trying to say, will execute a short burn just before separation using a combination of its 12 Draco engines around the
And you
base
should
of the
say, you know, I never
spacecraft.
did get Dragon away.
That was Barry Wilmore. Dude, it's funny seeing the flight controllers
This
laugh.
will break any stiction
copy
between
that.
Dragon and the docking port. And then a second burn will help the spacecraft slowly start backing away.
There we go. We didn't get a shot of it undocking exactly, guys, because of a Tidris handover.
We have a fantastic
now we got a
view
picture of
the
it.
Dragon coming in.
And any Canadians watching the stream are like, hey, oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that thing. Oh, that's great. Look at that right in the shop. Canada mentioned. Oh, yeah, bud.
Dragon SpaceX late call depart burn 0 was nominal.
Okay. Oh,
Perfect, and we've just
Canada,
received-
a robotic arm in space. Right? Those are the lyrics, I think.
Of the Draco thrusters to break some stiction from Dragon and the International Space Station.
Those are the lyrics, right? Any Canadians out there? Oh, dude, even better. Please don't sing again. I will. Exposure. Ship 26 needs arms. Ship 26 needs a metal grinder and an excavator. Like maybe a Cat D9 or something just to run it over. From what part of the ISS is this view from? This is on the mobile base segment, or the MBS issue. That's the arm is attached to it. So not a lot of people know the ISS has that big truss segment. Now that part people know. It's this big crossbar that goes across it.
All right, we have confirmed separation here at
yeah?
4:05 p.m.
It's good to know.
Central, 2:05 p.m. Pacific.
So
International Space Station and Dragon.
on that truss segment on the front side of the space station, there is a segment called the mobile base system, or the MBS for short. It is actually a little shuttle, not like a space shuttle. It's a little train. I guess that would be the right way to say it. It's a little train that can traverse back and forth on the truss segment. You can attach the arm to it, and you can move it all the way out. So if somebody needs to install a new solar panel, they can get the arm out there for work. This camera is on the MBS. It's tilted 90 degrees, so that way is up, Earth is that way. So we're kind of looking at like this relative to the ground. But yeah, there's the MBS. That's it right there. The arm attaches to it. So the other things that are on the MBS are Dexter right here, which is another Canadian contribution to the space station. If if the SSRMS is like an arm, Dexter is like fingers. It's the fingers for the arm. You know, each one of them can carry a bunch of things. Yeah, it's a little train that goes back and forth on the space station. It can traverse the truss segment. Yeah, the MBS is super cool. They even have little carts. There are little carts that are attached to it.
Oh. Roger that.
Oh yeah, Vargon. Those are the lyrics. All right, cool.
Perfect. We continue to confirm nominal burns that are taking place as Dragon continues to depart the International Space Station.
Fingies. I burnt my fingies. Putting a crane arm on a train. It's genius in its simplicity. Dude, it's, yeah.
As we continue to monitor here jointly, on the right side of your screen,
nominal,
you will see...
And Dragon, at this time, your go to DOF suits in 4.012. And I've got another reminder here that the big loop will be deactivated following Dragon's exit from the approach ellipsoid.
Okay.
Copies go for 4.01.
So we have a nominal depart burn lasting approximately 16 seconds. Okay. And the team continues to monitor the departure of Dragon as it exits the approach ellipsoid, the 2 by 2 by 4 kilometer sphere.
Check this out. So there's a shot of the MBS. The MBS is part of the, it's a much bigger thing called the mobile servicing system. But see, they have a little cart right there that they can attach a bunch of things to.
The two invisible boundaries around the International Space Station are the approach ellipsoid and the keep out sphere. So these are the spaces where they monitor the arriving and departing spacecraft.
You can go all the way over here.
And we are currently standing by for the next burn.
Or it can go all the way over there. The arm is attached to it, and then note that it has a bunch of different angled points on the MBS at 4 corners. They're all different angles, so the arm can be in a different position so it can get at different things.
And with that, we're just minutes away from the next burn, but we are going to pass it over as we stand by in mission control to our team.
Come on.
Continue to walk you through this process.
This camera is mounted on it, I'm pretty sure.
And we've got a lot of action going on.
Oh yeah, the MBS is cool, man. Not a lot of people know that. That's part of the reason why the ISS was made that way.
Endeavor, as it's moving further and further away from the International Space Station. We had burn 0 and departure burn 1 already completed. That departure burn 1 is creating more and more distance between the International Space Station and Dragon, and allowing Dragon to exit that keep out sphere, as Nilüfer mentioned. And again, some really cool views there.
Station Easton on the big loop. Endeavor's exited the keep out sphere. Break for Endeavor. Godspeed. We'll see you all in just a little bit.
There you go.
Neil.
That was Neil Nagata.
And on your screen, you're continuing to see...
That was Neil Nagata, the capsule communicator, communicating with the Dragon Crew 8 crew that they are, in fact, out of the no-fly zone, keep out sphere around the ISS, basically saying you're out of our airspace, so to speak.
Thruster firings on your screen as we got that call out. The keep out sphere is an imaginary sphere or boundary that's 200 meters in radius around the space station. It's one of several safety zones set up to govern visiting vehicles either arriving or departing the International Space Station, and you can continue to see these great views of Dragon as it departs the space station, slowly backing away. Now, before moving into the keep out sphere, all of the spacecraft have to be configured where they would not cross the imaginary boundary for at least 4 orbits, even if for some reason the spacecraft lost all maneuvering. But again, we don't expect that to occur today.
So if you just caught the tail end of that, what that basically means is that the 2 departure burns that Dragon is doing right now is going to put it in a type of orbit that won't get near the ISS again for a certain amount of time. So in the event that, you go dead stick here, which is very unlikely. But if you do, you don't have to worry about it crashing into the ISS again.
For at least 24 hours, again, even if it lost all maneuvering for that call out, once we hear confirmation that Dragon is outside of that AE.
So to recap today a little bit, the hatches between the International Space Station and Dragon Endeavour were closed earlier at 12:24 p.m. Pacific. Since then, the crew has settled in to begin their 34-hour journey back to Earth following their undocking at 2:05 p.m. But prior to that, the joint NASA and SpaceX teams pulled go to proceed with undock. The undock command was then sent at 2 p.m. followed
SpaceX Dragon to ground, cabin mic check.
Okay.
Got you loud and clear on the cabin mic. Good comm check on Dragon to ground.
Awesome, thank you so much.
And you did hear some communications about a mic check between the ground and Dragon Endeavour. This is taking place because once Dragon exits the approach ellipsoid, the big loop will be deconfigured. The big loop is that integrated loop between Mission Control Houston, Mission Control Hawthorne, the International Space Station, and Crew Dragon Endeavour. But now that Dragon has departed the International Space Station, all those folks don't need to be in the same comms loop anymore, so they're working to deconfigure that as soon as we get out of the approach ellipsoid. So just working through some of those steps a little bit, as you heard. Now, after the umbilicals were retracted just a few minutes ago and those hooks were opened, we did see physical separation take place at 2:05.
Dude, it looks like a screensaver.
Was flying over the Pacific Ocean, approaching the western tip of South Africa. Dragon then completed 2 of 4 departure burns and exited the keep-out sphere. And we're now just a couple minutes away from Dragon crossing through that approach ellipsoid point to set the spacecraft and Crew 8 up for their path back to Earth. Again, Dragon is targeting to splash down off the coast of Florida, and there you see another great view of it. Our Cronus flight controller and Mission Control Houston continuing to angle the camera so that we can keep a bird's eye view or an International Space Station eye view on Dragon as it continues to depart further and further away. But again, Dragon is targeted to splash down off the coast of Florida at 3:29 a.m. Eastern, 12:29 a.m. Pacific on Friday, October 25th, which will mark the completion of its 7-month science mission.
Oh, it's going to be orbiting. It's going to be up there for a little while.
And so, again, we are continuing to get those great views. Perhaps if it comes into focus a little more, you might be able to make out those thruster firings.
Well, tomorrow's going to be a long stream, dudes.
And it has...
yeah, tomorrow's going to be a long one. The undocking is Friday at 3 in the morning. Because, you know, Spaceflight just really likes doing stuff in the dead middle of the night. Yeah, so we'll be here for that.
All of that more in our splashdown broadcast, but just a little preview of what's to come.
Tomorrow's the 24th. Yeah, I know, Journey. If I start a stream tomorrow, the 24th at noontime, and we go till 3 a.m. the next day, that's the 25th. The more you know. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, so if you're just now joining us, you are tuned into the Crew 8 departure from the International Space Station.
Yeah,
the crew has actually already departed the International Space Station. We've already completed the unlatching of the umbilicals and hooks, hard capture hooks that mate Dragon to the International Space Station. We've completed burn 0 and departure burn 1, and the vehicle with the 4 crew members inside are now moving further and further away from the International Space Station, making their way outside of the, they've already exited the keep-out sphere, and now they're making their way outside of the AE, or the approach ellipsoid. Again, this is to keep the crew safe. There's a number of choreographed maneuvers that the Dragon spacecraft has to do to make sure that it can safely depart away from the International Space Station, and then it will soon begin maneuvers over the course of the next 30 hours or so to make its way back down to Earth.
And with Crew 8 now undocked from the International Space Station and on their way towards that targeted splashdown off the coast of Florida on Friday morning, let's take a moment to learn a little bit more about...
So, Journey, this is not this is SpaceX Mission Control. That's Mission Control Hawthorne.
Faith Dominic, and they
Maddie
have
D.
2 daughters.
That's not Launch Control. It's in California. It's at SpaceX's headquarters. Well,
from the Naval
headquarters in
Postgraduate
Hawthorne,
School,
California.
And he was designated as a naval aviator in 2007. Matt has made 2 deployments to the North Arabian Sea, has flown close air support missions in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, and he has more than 1,600 hours of flight time in 28 different aircraft, as well as 400 carrier-assisted landings and 61 combat missions.
This
was his first space flight.
Matt's pretty cool. We like Matt. Be like Matt. Matt's a
Dr.
pretty
Michael
cool guy.
R. Barrett, Crew 8's pilot, was selected by NASA in 2000. He's the only member of the crew of Crew 8 who's been to space before as part of Expedition 19 and 20 in 2009 and STS-133 in 2011. Before Crew 8, he spent 212 days in space. He is board certified in internal and aerospace medicine and has been awarded numerous times for his contributions to space medicine research. Michael lives in League City, Texas with his wife Michelle and their 5 children. And personal and recreational interests include sailing, boat restoration, writing, and cooking good food in harsh or remote places.
And next up is Jeanette Epps. This was mission specialist Jeanette Epps' very first space flight. She's a Syracuse, New York native and was a NASA fellow during graduate school. She then worked for the Ford Motor Company, where she received a U.S. patent for her research into auto collisions and countermeasure systems. After leaving Ford, she joined the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, for 7 years, where she worked as a technical intelligence officer before she became an astronaut in 2009. She has a Master of Science and Doctorate of Philosophy in Aerospace Engineering, and she's also a twin.
And mission specialist Alexander Gurbankin was also a first-time flyer for this mission. He graduated from the Irkutsk military.
How do you make that? Oh yeah, I know. I work at Ford. No. I'm gonna go work for the CIA now.
Aircraft radio navigation systems. He then attended the Moscow Technical University of Communications and Informatics, graduating with a degree in radio communications, broadcasting, and television.
Cool.
He was accepted into the Cosmonaut Corps in 2018 and served as a flight engineer while on board the International Space Station.
Yeah, the twin. Yeah.
And that is your Crew 8 crew, who is currently making their way back down to Earth. And we're going to hand it over to JSC with...
Now, okay, guys, here's the thing. You're going to hear astronauts' resumes, and you're going to... Don't feel bad about yourself. I like, you know, I look at that, I'm like, well, that's pretty cool, you know, like... But you shouldn't look at that and be like, well, nope, not dude, never going to be like that. Just, I don't try to get discouraged when I hear these people's resumes. What I try to do is look at that and be like, damn, that's cool. I'm happy somebody's out there kicking butt and taking names, you know, like, because I play video games. High five, you know. But, yeah, pretty cool. Just engineer. Then, you know, engineer. She worked at Ford. And then she went to the CIA and then to NASA after that. Just whatever. Just as one does. As one does. It's good to, you get inspired by that. I think that's super neat. It's like, damn, dude, some of these people are just don't take no crap from nobody, you know.
776 orbits of Earth.
They haven't laid as many
The
concrete
space
blocks
station
as
is
me.
our orbiting laboratory where crew conduct all kinds of science and demonstrate technologies for the benefit of humanity. So here in Mission Control, the ground team works with the crew to conduct this science, and the researchers from all over the world have science on the space station.
Johnny Kim Chimp, yeah.
Over 200 experiments were worked on during Crew 8's time on orbit. And NASA astronaut Jeanette Epps spent some of her time extracting DNA for the genomic enumeration of antibiotic resistance in space experiment. So this experiment surveys the station and the antibiotic-resistant organisms and sequences their DNA to examine adaptations to space. And the results from this investigation could support development of measures to protect astronauts and people in buildings and facilities on Earth, such as hospitals, from resistant bacteria.
I understood some of those words. Yeah, Yeah, I know who Johnny Kim is. Chet.
We see Dragon here getting...
We streamed when he got chosen as an astronaut. We streamed that astronaut class graduation ceremony. Yep. I promptly heard his resume and went, I made my bed today, Mr. Kim. So there, bruh. Now, what
They
did
are
you
higher
do?
quality than those printed on the ground. So the results from this investigation could help to advance the production of organs and tissues for transplant, and also improve 3D printing of foods and medicines on future long-duration space missions. And with that, we've received confirmation that we've just exited the approach ellipsoid.
Here we go.
Crew 8, Dragon, are on their way home.
Putting these things right behind me.
I'd be remiss not to talk about NASA astronaut Mike Barrett and what he did while he was in orbit. And he worked closely on an investigation called the Human Brain Organoid Models for Neurodegenerative Disease and Drug Discovery.
Many wrinkles.
And this investigation uses
SpaceX
human brain organoids created
for
with
your
stem
awareness,
cells.
The vehicle has exited the approach ellipsoid and is on a safe free drift trajectory.
Great, we just heard that call out, and science will always continue to be front and center with various crews that spend their time aboard the orbiting laboratory. And when they splash down, they'll be extracted first, followed by some of that science I just discussed, and it'll be delivered to researchers on the ground. So while we may not be able to air after we exit the approach ellipsoid, we'll continue to provide periodic updates through our mission audio commentary on nasa.gov. So with that, I will take a moment and hand it back to Sandra and Jesse in Hawthorne.
All right. They're going to be back down Friday at 3 in the morning. We'll be here for that. So Thursday into Friday's stream is going to be quite long. That's a 15-hour stream. But we're up for the task because we got the tools and we have the talent. Yeah. Finger guns.
For our safe free drift trajectory, which we've discussed, which means the spacecraft would not cross into the approach ellipsoid for at least 24 hours again if for some reason all maneuvering was lost.
And with that, Crew 8 has officially departed the International Space Station. It will take them about 34 hours until they make their way back down home to Earth. The crew is currently doffing or removing their spacesuits to settle in for the ride home, and Dragon is targeted to splash down off the coast of Florida at 3:29
Yes, Badger.
or 12:29 a.m. Pacific time on Friday, October 25th, followed by the crew getting picked up at sea by a SpaceX recovery vessel. As they rest up, our teams here will continue to keep an eye on the weather to ensure a safe return for Dragon and our Crew 8 astronauts.
And though our coverage here in Hawthorne is wrapping up for today, we will turn it over to the NASA team in Houston to take us.
No, we won't. You know why we won't? Because guess what's happening? We got Starlink 661 in about 20 minutes. Actually, little bit more than 20 minutes. Anyway, cool. This one is coming down in Florida, Dreens. Yep. Arca Space Hype video? No. Let's see. Does SpaceX's HQ have multiple mission control rooms, seeing as there's a Starlink launch in like 20 minutes? Yes. Yes, it does. Where are the other ones? Don't know. Couldn't tell you. They're totally not next to that one. They're totally not next to it. They're next to it. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Yeah, dude. Your coverage of these events is really good. Thank you, Aerodyne. Yeah, there's a couple of mission control rooms there. It's been a while since I've been to Hawthorne. One of them is the one that you see with the glass. That's the main one. Then there's a second duplicate mission control room for dual operations, and then there's a third one for testing. If I'm remembering that correctly, I've seen them. No, you couldn't take pictures. No, I'm not telling you what they look like. They do kind of look similar, but couple little stemminky there, you know, a couple little things here and there that are a little different. They wouldn't let you take pictures of it. I can confirm, though, next to those mission control rooms is SpaceX's main server, like the SpaceX mainframe. And if you look in, there's windows into the server room, and there's a Cyberdyne logo in there, and a Terminator, and a Xenomorph. Yep. Can confirm that. That's absolutely true. Yep. Yeah, the SpaceX mainframes has a Cyberdyne Systems logo on it. Yep. And then next to that is the mez, so you can get coffee. So that's good. Can't stop looking at booster catch. The hand? I don't know what you're talking about, Chief. That doesn't exist. Here. Have a completed improved LOX tank for a rocket that's supposed to send people to walk to the moon. Oh. Well, we got Falcon 9, 661, Starlink 661 happening momentarily, but oh, we got some footage of the Artemis III LOX tank from what I can tell here. Oh yeah. Momento. There's no chip, Chief. I don't know. What are you talking about? No chip? Yeah, in case you were wondering how big SLS is. 8.4 meter core diameter. That picture shows that pretty well. Starship is 9 meters. It's just a little bit bigger than this. Just in case you're wondering. When is this getting delivered to the bottom of the ocean? It'll probably burn up before that happens, Jim. But when that happens, I don't know. I have no idea. I would just like to casually remind everybody that SLS is no longer the bottleneck in the Artemis program. It's most definitely the capsule that flies on top of it. And actually, production for more SLS is ramping up, as you can see, which is still funny to me. Yeah, SLS is not the bottleneck for this. Oh yeah, you rotate that damn LOX tank. Vulcan, you seeing this? I want that LOX tank, that one right in the center. That's perfect. The core stage was engineered meticulously, Hellfish. The only reason that it took so long was, one, Michoud got hit by a hurricane in 2017, which delayed the program by a year at the very least. And two, yeah, this is kind of their fault. They underestimated that building the main propulsion system, the MPS, for the core stage is basically like building the back half of a space shuttle in terms of complexity. Now, whether you hate that or like that, I don't really care. It turns out it's complicated. But now that they have it figured out, not as complicated. They can ramp. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They can ramp. Get rotated, nerd. So you're saying this isn't part of the $6 billion Q3 loss. In terms of performance and payout on contracts, Hellfish, because it's cost plus incentive for SLS, SLS is kind of pushing in terms of profit for Boeing, if I'm remembering correctly. So, like, now that like I said, this thing ain't the bottleneck no more, they should make more of these. They should make like 20 more of these, like right now. That's the vertical friction stir welding jig. That's how they manufacture it. This is the tank inspection area that they're loading it into right now. This is the high bay in Michoud. This tank inspection bay was used for Saturn V's, believe it or not. It was used for S1Cs. To do the exact same thing, inspect the tanks. 20 more for what missions? I'm sure we could figure it out. How about 20 missions launching 4 times a year over the next 4 years. That'll leave 4 left over. Backups. Yeah, see the... I think those things are lights, I think. Yep, this is the tank inspection bay. Cool. Oh, dude, this footage is sweet, man. Note that, like I said, the tank inspection bay is much bigger than the core stage because this tank inspection bay was originally built for a 10-meter core. It was built for Saturn V. They've been using this the whole time. They used it for ET tank inspection, too. Yeah, note that it's a lot wider than the tank because it was built for a much wider diameter. The tank inspection bay looks like a missile silo with the side missing. Yep. Yep. See the scale we're talking about here? Pretty cool, huh? What they're going to do in there is inspect the welds. Yeah, they're going to look over the welds and everything. We already had that one, Vulcan, but yeah. Is this in the VAB? This is not the VAB. This is the high bay at Michoud in Louisiana. Cool. Nope, tank cleaning, weld inspection, and proofing is already done. Oh, very nice. You got to clean it. You know, you got to clean it. I just want to also note that this this thing is just basically the size. That's the size of an S1C, RP1 and LOX tank. Basically, like if you want some context here for how big a Saturn V first stage is, it's as big as that because that was built for it. Just in case you were wondering. I also peeped the EUS flight dome over there. Eh? Eh? Where? Oh, I don't know, Jeff, has it? I must have missed that. God. The blue tooling on the far right. Yeah, you can barely see it, but yeah. Cool. Sweet. That's awesome footage, man. All right, so wondering if... Oh, the earnings call. Yeah, no. Watch that. NSF is up for 6-61, but not... Oh, God. No, get it, please. Get it off the screen. Not here. Not like this. So, you want fries with that? Now we know he doesn't follow the stream because he doesn't follow the no politics rule. Yeah, right. All right, so Bollinger Shipyards announced that it's going to build another rocket transportation vehicle for ULA called RS Spaceship. I'm not sure if it's ship in class, right? But I'll say it's the sister ship to ULA's other rocket transporter, RS Rocket Ship. Cool. That's sweet. They started, we'll lay the keel for RS Spaceship. Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome. ULA is scaling operations to be able to handle Vulcan missions and all the Amazon missions that they have. We're in the spicy season. We need to be more... Yeah, it's only... What is it? What are we? 2.5 weeks out, only 2.5 weeks more. This not, I mean, let's be real, it's not going to stop, but only 2.5 weeks more of this particular nonsense until a new form of nonsense will start. It'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. Where is Bollinger? A place near the ocean. It's got to be on the Gulf Coast, dude. Got to be on the Gulf Coast. I sent you more space news links on Discord. Oh, I saw it, but we don't need to worry about that, Creeper. You know why? Because this is coming on. Starlink 661. What type of candy are you giving out on Halloween? Kit Kats. All right, so Crew 8 undock ended. Now we have Starlink 6-61 going out of Slick 40 at the Cape. Pre-launch ads. Pre-launch ads. Yeah, sure. Pre-launch ads. We will run them now. One ad only. Erudite, I hope this isn't Rule 8, but are you early voting? Erudite, if I can show up to the polls on day of, I'd prefer to do that. That's more of a me thing than anybody else. I just don't like the idea. And once again, this is not, I'm not trying to make this a thing. I just don't like the idea of me not putting the ballot in the ballot machine. That's more of an EJ thing. Don't read too much into that, guys. I like showing up. It's just, I don't know, important to me. But screw that. We're not going to talk about that. We are 4 minutes and 35 seconds out. I will try to run these ads here. We're going to run ads so...
Strong back lower has started.
We're going to run the ads so you don't get a pre-roll during... If you're not subscribed, you don't get a pre-roll during launch. It's probably referring to the shell, Mishu. Yeah, I got you, Spud. So this is a Falcon 9 here, launching, let's see. Let's see what the details are. Let's get the deets. We got 23 Starlink V2 mini satellites on board. Today's core that's flying is booster serial number 1073. It's on a 72-day turnaround and will be launching out, it will be landing out on Shortfall of Gravitas, one of SpaceX's autonomous spaceport drone ships. This is SpaceX's overall 401st mission. It's 101st mission of 2024. 385th Falcon 9 mission and 99th Falcon 9 launch of 2024. Pretty cool. Got a pretty sunset there at Space Launch Complex 40, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
Stage 1 lock slot is complete.
How many launches have you seen in person? Lost count. Did they find the problem with the second stage thing? They did find the problem with the second stage thing. See, Kraken, that problem was fixed. The thing is that the FAA allowed Falcon to return to flight basically about 5 minutes, actually like 5 minutes before they granted the launch license for Flight 5 and 6 for Starship. So that news immediately got buried. It got buried under a mountain of chopsticks. Yeah. Sorry, I'm drinking water because I'm getting a little dehydrated. I know if you get dehydrated, if you have a headache, that means it's already too late. But hey, what am I supposed to do? Just sit here? No, drink more
Stage
water.
2 lock slot is complete.
Stage 2 liquid oxygen loading is complete. What we should see is the strongback start evacuating the remaining propellants from the transporter erector, that truss structure just to the left of Falcon 9. What they're doing is they're getting everything out of the fuel and oxidizer lines that go to the second stage.
Gas launch closeouts has started.
That's what it is. That's the ground gas closeout. They're getting all the liquid oxygen and fuel. They're draining the fuel down the bottom, but they purge out the LOX line by pumping nitrogen up the line, and the oxygen turns to gas and it gets displaced out of that vent right there. The idea is that you don't want your pad to catch on fire when the rocket launches. You want the rocket to catch on fire down there, not the pad. So they're evacuating all the propellants out of the pad.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9 is moved into startup here. Yeah, exactly, NG. It's pretty funny.
Go for launch.
Launch director reports go. T-minus 42 seconds and counting.
T-minus 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Chat is go. Okay.
T-minus 15 seconds.
10.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
Sound suppressor
4,
water system is on.
3, 2,
ignition.
1. Liftoff. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Okay, we got a liftoff. Starlink 6-61 is in the air, lofting 23 Starlink V2 satellites for better low Earth orbit internet service provider capabilities. Got a good call for prop here. The next call here is in the next, we should be in 20 seconds, indicating power and telemetry is nominal. Vehicle's on a roll program to establish flight azimuth. What type of trajectory are we flying today? South. This is a southeast trajectory, indicating flight azimuth is somewhere on the
power and telemetry nominal.
Somewhere on the compass around heading 135 out of the Cape. Call for power and telemetry is good. Next step is maximum dynamic pressure, or max Q.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Maximum dynamic pressure refers to basically when the vehicle has the maximum induced compression load from aerodynamic forces. Basically, the plain English way of saying that is that the rocket can't move the air out of the way faster. So what they do is they throttle down the engines to mitigate compression load. You don't want to accordion the entire stack. So they slow down, they power down the engines for a second. But as Falcon 9 flies higher up into the atmospheric pressure goes down.
MVAC chill has started.
So there's less air getting in the way of the vehicle, so they'll throttle it back up here in a moment. That call right there was for Merlin Vacuum. The second stage engine is now having propellants trickled into it to make sure that it's primed and basically at the correct operating temperature, particularly the pumps on the engine. They need to be cold because they're moving around cold liquid oxygen. You don't want to flow cold oxygen into a hot pump. That would be very bad for the rocket. Yeah, that's what happens. So they thermally condition the engine to prime it and make sure it's at the right operating temperature before they start it here. Is the throttle bucket same as max Q? The throttle bucket refers to what max Q looks like on your throttle telemetry cooking, meaning you're at full throttle, you throttle down, and then you throttle back up again. It looks like a bucket.
Main engine cutoff.
There's main engine cutoff, 9 engine shutdown, stage separation.
Stage separation confirmed.
Upper stage ignition.
And back ignition.
See, the engine is primed and turns right on. Perfect. Good stage separation there. No problem, Apache. It's what I do. Now, should come up here on fairing sep. Here it goes.
Fairing separation confirmed.
We got a good shot of fairing separation. introducing the 23 V2 mini Starlink satellites to the vacuum of space. Those fairings will be reused. We don't really have serial numbers on the fairings, so we don't know what fairings they are or what missions they've flown, but they will be reused. They're basically going to re-enter downrange, and they have a parafoil that'll deploy, a big parachute, and then the fairings will basically glide down and land in the water like a seaplane, and then they'll be recovered. Over here on the left side of your screen, you have the first stage. Grid fins have deployed, and what's going on there? You're seeing little pulses you're seeing outgassing pulses. That's cold gas nitrogen thrusters, basically just compressed nitrogen. That is basically keeping the booster on an even keel. The grid fins aren't really doing anything right now. You're up in space, so there's not enough air for the grid fins to do anything. The RCS, or attitude control system, SpaceX calls it ACS on Falcon 9, are basically keeping Falcon 9 in the correct position, so when Falcon 9 does start coming back down in the atmosphere, the grid fins are pointed in the right direction, and also the entire vehicle.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Over here on the right monitor, the second stage is accelerating here. It's past 10,000 kilometers an hour, and it's looking for about 27,000 kilometers an hour would be orbital velocity. The second stage does a lot of work here. Now you can see that the nozzle over there is glowing. That's actually the passive cooling system on that engine. You can't convect heat up in space, and I don't know if you guys figured this out. Rocket engines are a little bit hot. You get a little warm. But you can't convect the heat out there. And the Merlin vacuum doesn't have any regenerative cooling. It has regenerative film cooling. But they're not running propellants through that nozzle. That's what they usually do. They run cold propellants through the nozzle to keep the thing cool. Can't do that with that. Because it's complicated. It's a complicated design. I mean, you could, but they didn't choose to do that. What they do is they make that engine nozzle out of very weird, rare earth metals into an alloy that basically radiates heat instead of convects it. Basically, the thing glowing is how it's cooling itself. Because the only way to really bleed off heat when you're in the vacuum space is to glow. You have to do it through infrared, through black body radiation, which is super cool. That's actually, so the nozzle glowing is a good thing. It's not about to melt. It's glowing because it's keeping itself cool, passively though. Coming up at here on T plus 5 minutes and 55 seconds into this Starlink 6-61 mission. Next step here is the entry burn, my favorite part. First stage is going to fire up its engines.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Going to fire.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There we go. It's going to fire up its engines to start slowing itself down. But also, the engine's firing here is actually keeping Falcon 9 cool. Why is it keeping it cool? Well, it's enveloping it in a cooler column of gas. That cool column of gas is basically a thermal envelope for the booster to not melt. Now, I know what you think. Well, wait, it's flying through rocket.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
It's flying through its rocket exhaust. Isn't rocket exhaust warm? Well, yeah, sure, but it's not as warm as re-entry heating. SpaceX is fighting the plasma accumulation that occurs during re-entry heating with fire from their own rocket engines. They're not fighting fire with fire. They're fighting plasma with fire. That's why it's my favorite part. It's called supersonic retropropulsion. Don't worry, my speed metal band is going to be called that. I swear. Okay, first stage is now coming back down into the atmosphere. You should start seeing the grid fins start wiggling around doing work here. Second stage still doing its thing, crossing about 19,000 kilometers an hour. Once again, the magic number that we're looking here is somewhere around 27,000.
Stage 1 transonic. Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Okay, Falcon 9 is now subsonic here, under the speed of sound. Traveling about 600 miles an hour right now. And it's about 2 miles off the deck.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There we go. You're really going to see the grid fins start doing work here as the landing burn on the first stage has started. We have sight of a short fall of gravitas here. Little choppy out there. Got some caps on the waves.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Stage 1 landing legs deploy. As the legs deploy, the grid fins lock up. They're no longer needed because you're not going fast enough to use them. And you get a good touchdown.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Good landing for booster 1073, completing its 18th flight. All that's left now is the second stage to hit second stage engine cutoff 1 or SECO 1 here in the mission, and the call for nominal orbital insertion.
And back shutdown.
Okay, there's second stage engine cutoff. 27,108.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
On-land gifted 20, thank you. Waiting for the call for nominal orbital insertion, and they cut the cast before they did. 27,108 staging velocity is fine. That's a nominal orbit. Like I said, about 27,000 in change. That's fine. Montblanc gifted 20 and had a tier 3 35-month resub. Dude, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. But that's going to do it for Starlink 6-61 coverage. I miss seeing them fling the sats. Yeah, me too, Badger. They do make it look easy. But yeah, that's perfect staging velocity. 27,108 is fine. Yeah, they didn't call it. They did call it, but we didn't hear it. They cut the cast before that happened. But yeah, good. Falcon 9 missions. Fly so much it's getting boring. And I you know what? It's not boring for me, but still cool. They have not showed the deployment in years, Nikita. Yeah, they don't do that. They don't even commentate on the dang launch. You know? How much Delta V is lost doing a roll program? Next to none. Not a lot. It's so much that it's almost negligible. Nice weather guy. Do you really think they treat each flight like it's the first? I don't think that they necessarily treat each flight like it's the first flight cooking, but they definitely tweet. They definitely tweet each the Tweety Bird. No, they definitely treat each flight like it's a very serious thing. I wouldn't say a first flight, but every flight definitely gets treated like a big deal. I wouldn't say first flight, but a big deal. You know what I mean? I thought I saw a putty cat. Chris G, XNSF, now SpaceX, also likes that view from the ISS. Yeah, I know Chris, Mishu. Chris, a buddy of mine. Yeah, see, he knew. He knew. Raptor nozzle is a copper alloy, and the combustion chamber should be Inco alloy, if I remember from what you've said previously. Yeah, Chief, for sure, but we're not we were talking about Merlin vacuums. We weren't talking about Raptors. The context of that was the Merlin vacuum engine. But yeah, that's what I have said. Sounds right to me. The dream of space travel becoming common is in its own way a tiny nightmare. We no longer report on trans-Pacific air travel for identical reasons. Yeah, good stuff. Aren't they made out of the same alloy? Probably not. No, Raptor's manufacturer is completely different, dude. Do you think SpaceX would make their own space station? I don't think they have to, Spinal, to be honest with you. I really don't think they have to. All they have to do is launch a Starship up there and just have it sit in low Earth orbit. Boom, instant space station. Send a Dragon to it if you want to. In fact, that Spinal, this is very much personal speculation. I think that's what Polaris 2 is. You know, we saw the Polaris Dawn mission where Jared Isaacman, Scott Poteet, Anna Menon, and Sarah Gillis, did that extravehicular activity, tested SpaceX's new EVA suit. I honestly think that the next Polaris mission, they're going to send up a Starship with an airlock and more EVA suits, right? And they're going to dock to a Starship. That's just personal opinion, though. I don't know if that's true. That probably is not what's going to happen, but also we can dream, man. I think that SpaceX doesn't need to make a space station. They can just have Starships. And you could just send the Starship up there, and that is your space station, at least for the interim amount of time. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll make a docking ring like Cairo Station from Halo at some point, which would be pretty cool. Good. It would be nice to be able to stockpile fuel up there. I thought they would pretty much use the same materials. Chief, if I was making a cigarette boat, a racing boat, what would it be made out of? Fiberglass, right? Fiberglass, carbon fiber, maybe. If I was going to make a container ship that holds 5,000 TEUs, what would we make that out of? Would we make that out of carbon fiber too? You make it out of cigarettes, obviously. Okay. The point is, it's not the same thing that we'd make a bigger ship out of, right? Duplex steel. Exactly, man. Exactly. The Merlin engine is a completely different operating principle than a Raptor. It's totally different. Like, to the point where you're comparing like a cigarette boat to a container ship. Like, different cooling avenues. The Merlin vacuum is a much older design. So, yeah. You could maybe. I mean, that'd be impressive, but yeah, no. Do you think SpaceX would want to focus on further development of the suits in Polaris, like water cooling? Joe, that is the exact reason why I think they're going to dock to a Starship. What's the next step for that EVA suit? Because Polaris Dawn, dude, you can only depress the Dragon once, and you can only do it for about 15 minutes, and then you can't. Then if it goes beyond that, you got some serious problems. The reason why is Dragon's an open loop system. It's venting. It's venting overboard. The Dragon wasn't designed to be depressurized. They basically hot-wired it to be able to do what Polaris Dawn did. It wasn't designed to do that. The reason why it wasn't designed to do that is because it's designed to do what NASA wanted it to do, because NASA's the one that paid for it, right? It's designed to just go up and dock to something. So if they really want to go next level with those EVA suits, you're going to need a power pack for it. You're going to need a mobility unit for it, like what the Axiom EVA suits have, or the EMUs that are up on the space station. You're going to need life support systems for your suit. And you're also going to need more time outside to test all these systems. You're not doing that with a Dragon capsule. And who knows, maybe they'll hotwire Dragon again to make it work. I don't know. But I don't think you'd be able to get that. You wouldn't be able to fit that out the front hatch for Dragon. So Dragon needs something to dock to for them to do more tests with their EVA suits. I think that Polaris 2 is going to dock to a Starship. Seriously. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. That doesn't really make a whole lick of sense, but who knows? Is the Raptor vacuum nozzle regeneratively cooled? No. Well, it is regeneratively cooled. It's film cooled. But it's not in this. It's regeneratively film cooled with the exhaust from the gas generator. Raptors do not work like that in the least. Raptors run their propellants through the cooling vanes on the motor, and the difference there is what makes the nozzle architecture different. SpaceX station could be just two Starships nose to nose, almost Skylab-ish. Starship space stations, Eddie, is reusable Skylab. I'd also like to point out that if anybody's wondering about scale here, and I always say this every time. So if we look at this, we look at the picture, this picture of Skylab right here, right? So do you see where that checker pattern is right there? You see that? That right there to the back over here, basically the main habitable volume of Skylab, that can fit in Starship's payload bay. Yeah, might be a little bit cramped, but if it's a permanent module, who cares? Skylab is a modified S4B. It's a modified Saturn V third stage. The S4B has a 6.6 meter diameter. That can fit inside of Starship's payload bay. Or usable payload volume, I should say. You can't fit any of this stuff here. But what I would think would be a really cool thing to do, build something like this, put it inside of the habitable volume, put an airlock in, because you're going to need, SpaceX needs that anyway, because that whole human landing system thing that they're contracted to do. And then take a docking port and put a radial port here. So Starship would open up its payload bay doors and a Dragon would dock. Similar to how the shuttle's docking port. Similar to how the shuttle's docking port is in the payload bay. Only reverse it. You know what I mean? See? Yeah, Phoenix. The habitable payload volume from Skylab could fit in this right here. From the checkerboard to these stringers back here can fit inside of Starship's payload bay. That is taking into account header tanks and stuff. Wouldn't Starship need to be human rated for those kind of tests with airlocks and stuff, or does human rated relate to launch and reentry? Human rating generally refers to the uphill and downhill ride. The end-to-end mission architecture, Scott. That doesn't mean anything for on-orbit stuff. On-orbit stuff would carry, space station modules would carry kind of a different human rating, don't you think? Because it's payload. Either that or carry an airlock in the trunk and dock with it Apollo style. You could do that, Goatman. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea either. But yeah, you'd lose the airlock and you'd lose your EVA suits too. Unless they can figure out a way to get a fully autonomous, like a fully self-contained EVA suit outside of Dragon's hatch. Then maybe. That's a lot of stuff to take into account there. Being able to get your suits outside of the hatch. Because Dragon's was not designed for that. It's the NDS, which is designed for egress with, like, under a pressurized environment. It's not a dedicated airlock, you know? Skylab was built out of the upper stage of a Saturn V rocket. That's correct. I think a thing like Vast is doing is a better long-term option. All right. I guess. I'd like to point out that one of Vast's modules is a 8 meter or 7 to 8 meter module. If it's 7 to 8 meter, there's only one thing that can encompass that, because a 7 meter fairing, for instance, is not going to be able to hold a 7 meter diameter space station module. So you'd need something bigger. The only other thing that has a bigger usable payload volume is Starship. So somebody over there in the YouTube chat, Daggerbird, you're saying just have a core module that can have multiple Starships docked to it. Yeah, that might happen a lot sooner than you might think with Vast. Yeah, Kaz, what you said. What he said. All right, so let me get the rest of the space news links and we'll go through. This. So yeah, good conversations, dudes, for sure. That's right, it goes in the square hole. Creeper, this first one from ours, we don't need to mention that. We went over that yesterday with the SF-106 mission. It's pretty obvious that if you have a Space Force mission on the books that the Space Force is going to grant Vulcan NSSL certification, you know. You don't need to write however many 1,000-page article about it. Like what's-his-face did. You know what? Actually, let's read it. I'm curious. I'm just copying over the rest of the links here. There's some interesting stuff here. Okay, got that. That. Yeah, I'm just making sure we're all good. Almost got all the links. How's progress on the KSC Starship Tower? Non-existent. Non-existent as of right now. SpaceX, because SpaceX decided to redesign the OLM. Sorry, I can English. %100% of Space News links. Sorry if this hurts your brain. Okay, and I think I have the last one here. Okay. All right. So, yeah, you guys like the updated backgrounds? I figure I'd be on this page here while I transfer all the links over. I have to transfer them from one computer to another. It takes a second. Especially like people link them in chat, but anyway. Yeah, we also got, we got Gallagher back, but we also got some booster catch, shuttle booster engine cutoff. We got more booster catch. We got reentry. We got green run. We got a lot of good stuff. That guy is still playing Galaga. He thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Once again, Creeper, thank you for all the links. I do appreciate it. For compiling them and giving me in one nice, easy message. Give me 1 second. Okay. Very Bing chilling. Is there a way we can get those catch videos in sync? I wonder. They're actually pretty close, dude. They're actually pretty dang close. You know, I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm just going to leave it like that. It's pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Anyway. So we just saw Starlink 6-61 take off. Here's the next bit of space news. The other cool thing is Blue Origin NS-27 launched this morning, and they launched with a brand new tail. Brand new first stage and a brand new capsule here. Uncrewed mission with just instrumentation and some scientific experiments on it. But, I'll show you the good part. Headphone users. This might get loud. Headphone users. Yeah, Frankly, they caught a booster. Did you know that? Have you checked McGregor Live today? Oh, I have, Todd. Don't worry. Don't you worry, man. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Well, that's pretty neat. Cool. So that was the NS-27 landing. NS-27 did launch this morning. Pretty good. So this is the article I wasn't sure if I wanted to mention. I'm just kind of curious. So Ars Technica posted this. Space Force official expects to certify Vulcan rocket despite nozzle failure. So once again, this is something that we kind of saw coming, considering the news that we covered yesterday was the Space Force announcing that ULA is going to launch for Vulcan's first Department of Defense mission. They're going to launch the SF-106 mission, which is apparently some type of rideshare with payloads that include, and also the really awesome systems architecture of, I don't know what's on it. If you didn't, that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so Ars wrote an article about it. I'm just kind of curious to see what this says. Stephen Clark wrote this one. Yep. Colonel James Horner, who oversees the launch execution for SSC, Space Systems Command, called the test flight a successful launch in an interview with Ars. The nozzle failure caused a significant loss of thrust from the damaged booster. Vulcan rocket's ability to overcome the dramatic nozzle failure, which was easily visible in the video of the launch, really demonstrated the robustness of the total Vulcan system. They nailed the orbit, probably one of the most accurate orbital insertions that I've seen flied yet, and at the end of the mission, they did some extended duration testing, which was not part of the orbital mission, and even after that extended mission, they still had substantial performance reserve left over. Cool, cool. Joe Barnard had a good video explaining what happened. Yeah, Vulcan's Cert 2 flight, which is basically the test flight to make sure to let the Department of Defense know the rocket is ready to go, was a Vulcan VC2 Vulcan that launched a couple of weeks ago, and it had the 2 in VC2, Vulcan Centaur 2, implies that there's 2 solid rocket motors on the sides. You can attach up to 6 on Vulcan. One of them, the nozzle particularly, basically decided to nozzle in. It came off. It did separate. Give me 1 second. I am trying to... I need to give Jack crap. Hold on. Sorry. I needed to I needed to give Jack crap about something. I can't tell you what it is. Sorry, I totally stopped Space News. I said, what is that? He says it's something called cheem steak. What? Yeah, okay, no explanation for that one. Yes, I mean yak. What does Tory Bruto say when someone doubts ULA's launches? You're just rocketing the boat. Poor Jack. Yeah. Anyway, back to Space News. Sorry, he hasn't replied. He hasn't replied. Think he's pissed? All right, anyway. I don't know, Alamander. He posted a picture of food, and I'm not going to post it because he doesn't, but also just... I need to teach Jack how to cook. You got to do that. Siri, remind me to do that. Sorry if that set off somebody. It did, didn't it? Anyway, okay, moving on. So yeah, Vulcan's one of the SRMs on Vulcan popped off, no good. But believe it or not, despite having a nozzle failure, the vehicle compensated and was able to get into the right orbit. Now, once again, we can kind of just pop through the rest of this. There's a whole freaking article about this. But we over here, like for the Space and Rocket Review here, we saw yesterday that the Space Force posted that the SF-106 mission on Vulcan is going to fly soon. We got a launch on the books for national security missions. That's what NSSL certification is. National Space. I blanked on the NSSL acronym. National Security Space Launch. That's what it is. You don't need to type it. I got it. So Vulcan, so per the, like if you want to fly certain payloads for the Department of Defense and the National Reconnaissance Office, you need to prove that your rocket works. So Cert 2 for ULA was trying to prove that it was working. And despite the nozzle coming off, they still achieved the objective, which is super cool. Vulcan actually compensated for the loss of thrust, and we saw it fly up into space. It was amazing, actually. Really cool. I actually had falsely said that they're screwed. They're screwed. But yeah, no, it turns out that it didn't really, it was it did lose a good amount of thrust, but it was a negligible amount, and it compensated, which is pretty awesome. So here's the thing. Like, we could finish reading the rest of that Ars article, or, well, let's just kind of put together, if the SF-106 mission is on the books, I'm going to go ahead and guess that they certified it, or they're going to certify it very soon. So, next bit of news. This one is a real weird one. You guys want a strange one? I was hoping, Creeper, you'd link this, but check this out. Astra has been awarded a contract by the Defense Innovation Unit with a ceiling of up to $44 million. The contract supports advancing and scaling the production capabilities of Astra's unique, tactically responsive launch system to achieve the prototype objective of launching Rocket 4 to orbit or suborbital suborbital and from the US, Australia, or other location. Regret selling those shares? I never sold shares from Astra. Pause. I never sold them because I didn't have any. But you know how I've been saying for a long time, don't count Astra out. Everybody's like, oh, Astra's done. Astra's done. Astra's done. Nope. Nope. Chuck Testa. Why is the exhaust of New Shepard a little orange? Shouldn't it be crystal clear? Yeah, Snake, that indicates a little bit of fuel rich. It's probably on purpose for cooling. Rockets never run full stoichiometric unless it's a fuel rich stage combustion like the shuttle, in which case, yeah, don't have to. But theirs doesn't work. Orbit and suborbital is two different challenges. Yeah, I know, Isphil. I just thought they were trying to make a joke. Yeah, Shogun, we'll get to that. Astra is the steam rocket, right? No, that's Arca. RB, Astra is the one that went to launch and the rocket just kind of went sideways off the pad. Does ULA Hotfire test the solids anywhere? Frankly, they Hotfire test solids in Ogden, Utah. It's not ULA, it's Northrop Grumman that does that. Yeah, it's in Utah. Didn't Astra go private? Yes, they did. 44 million is a bit tight for what they're trying to do, but yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. They're not dead yet. Arca is doing something. I don't really know. Give me 1 second. I'm monitoring the back channels for NSF over here. I want to see something. Okay, cool. Is spin launch still a thing? I have no idea. I have no idea, dude. I don't know. Anyway, that's cool to see some life being breathed into Astra. Let's see what happens. Because, like, I know, guys, that Astra kind of had some problems in the past, but you don't... Look, got to think about this in the kind of perspective of the commercial market, all right? Now, we're not talking about, like, equitability here, right? We're not talking about, like, why do we have SLS if Starship exists? You know, I think SLS should exist, despite Starship being pretty much better at every single thing in the future, right? Maybe. But I think that NASA should have their own thing. But here's the thing. In the commercial market, that's not so much the case. I think it's very important to not have market consolidation in the commercial launch industry before the commercial launch industry really kind of gets off the ground, right? You have all these other players in rocketry like Relativity, Blue, Astra. You have Firefly doing their thing. All these other players that haven't really launched a lot of things yet, right? And you don't want to count these guys out, or else you're going to get market consolidation. We already saw it happen with Virgin Orbit. That's not good. You don't want that kind of stuff. You want the industry to be growing, because if it's not growing, it's doing another thing. Guess what? There's no third direction. If it ain't growing, it's shrinking. So I know people are like, Astra, oh my God, it went sideways. You really don't want companies like this to fail. Because once the smaller companies start going, that could lead to terrible consolidation of the commercial market. That's not good. That is not good for us as spaceflight fans. That's a bad thing. Okay, so I'm happy that Astra landed a contract. Somebody said it in chat that 44 million isn't actually a lot of cash, but for small sat launching, that's enough. That's enough to make it work. That only works if the vehicles work. You don't invest in vehicles that don't work. Are you thick? Did you not listen to what I just said? We're not investors. I'm not giving you investment advice, you bozo. The heck, nerd? We're talking about as space fans. And you're not a ham, Hellfish. You're the whole pig. Anyway, moving on. Next bit of news is coming from Stennis. All right.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Yannick, hey, 6-month resub. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. All right, this one's coming from Stennis. NASA Stennis has entered into agreement with Skydweller Aero Incorporated for the company to operate its solar-powered autonomous aircraft in the site's restricted airspace, a key step towards achieving a strategic center goal. What? Should they give money to Python? Oh my God. Elfish, to even insinuate for a second that Astra is even remotely on the same, like, level as Python is insane. I think you're being contrarian about this. Either that or you didn't listen to what I said at the beginning. But that's fine. I mean, whatever. Just, yeah. Because market consolidation is great for an industry that's trying to expand, right? Yep. No, yeah, just let these companies die. It's a great idea. Yeah, good. EJ, the Astra NASA Tropics 1 mission is just 2 3U CubeSats. Well, anyway, seems like they think they can get them up there. Sorry. I don't get what you guys are talking about, dude, to be honest. We'll talk more about that in a second. What are you talking about? Market consolidation is bad. It's a bad thing. And you guys are trying to say, oh, well, yeah, we shouldn't reward rockets that don't work. Yeah, okay, except for Astra has a rocket that has worked. Rocket 3 did make it into space multiple times. Did we just forget that? Or do you just like cherry picking information? We just, no, screw that. Screw that. Yeah, the company that's actually launched something into space. No, they're on the same level as the company that blew up their rocket in a sand pit out in the middle of the desert. Yeah, oh yeah, those are the same things. Yeah, no, it's the exact same thing. Yep, yep, no, you're right. I hope you're picking up the sarcasm, because I'm laying it on pretty thick. Like, pretty damn thick. Did we watch Crew 8 Undock? Yeah, Pie Guy, we did. I saw Neil was on Capcom, which is pretty cool. Rocket 4 has a proven engine. It does have a proven engine, Pete. Yeah, that's weird. Like, I don't get it. Like, Dave... 1 out of 5 times. Yeah, you see, Hellfish, here you go. All right, look. 1 out of 5 times. Okay. All right, 1 out of 5 times. That's more times than blue. More times than relativity. There's only 3 commercial companies that have launched more things into space, dude. Can you name them? SpaceX, right? Northrop Grumman with Antares and Cygnus and Firefly. Oh, Rocket Lab 2. So 4. Think about that for a second. You see what I'm saying, dude? Yeah, I get it. You can bring up criticism that Astra stuff doesn't work and you shouldn't reward that type of behavior, but you're failing to take into account the perspective thing here. Astra's launched something into space. That is something that only a handful of companies that have done ever. Even now, ever. Right? You see what I'm saying, dude? That's not... I guess if we're gonna be specific, that is not a company you want to let fail. Python, they can go pound sand. I mean, they apparently like doing that in the desert. I get what you're trying to say, but in the context of Astra, you'd be off your rocker to let that company go under. A company that's launched something into space. That's absolutely you're out of your freaking mind. Oh, Firefly 2 on that list. So 6. You could include Virgin Orbit if you want, but they went under. Interesting. It's more than blue, Sandy. That's right. I think it would be a foolish decision to let Astra go under. That would be very bad. Firefly was number 3 on your list. Okay, I did mention them. So yeah, like I said. So SpaceX, Rocket Lab, Firefly, Astra, and Northrop Grumman. That's it. That's all. It's only 5 companies. See what I'm saying? I guess I should have chosen my words a little bit better there. But to insinuate that a company that has gotten payload to orbit, we should let them fail, right? Dude, is drastically under. Yeah, I get it. They haven't delivered on contracts. It's funny because the defense. What did they say? What's the name of that organization? The Defense Innovation Unit seems to disagree with you on this. To let them go under after getting into orbit, it wasn't a lot, but yeah. If the DIU says it's enough to invest $44 million in, I'd say that's probably a good idea to keep that going. But once again, I think the capability that Astra is offering, if they actually do it, is a good one. Unrelated, but one thing I disagree with you on is a lack of NASA space station interiors. The other day you said a new NASA station is a good benchmark in respect to the price to private stations, but isn't the ISS already a good benchmark? I don't see how a new ISS is appealing in any way to Congress and such. In my opinion, NASA should just be pushing the limits, not being stuck to old objectives. Eventually, the ISS price point wouldn't be something to compare to, Helsinki. And then what? Then what happens? Just like comparing Falcon 9 to the space shuttle at this point in terms of cost, it doesn't make any sense. You could adjust the shuttle's cost for inflation, but you know the costs per launch are variable, right? Eventually, you're going to have nothing to compare it to. Eventually, the ISS isn't going to work. Just like how you can't compare the price of SLS to a Saturn V. Nobody does that. Because that doesn't make any sense. So, launching okay, dude, a dry workshop. Just make Skylab 2. Skylab 2 with SLS. Take that LOX tank that we saw at the beginning of the stream. Make that into a space station. Put that on top of an SLS core stage. There you go. Done. And then a nose cone on top. Or put an Orion capsule on it. Launch it in one shot. Whatever. Whatever you want. Right? That would be a good benchmark. It'd be a good benchmark. And it'd be much more cost comparable. It'd be much more cost comparable to commercial alternatives. Look, I never said that my way is the least expensive way to go, but I think it's stupid to think about space exploration in terms of cost. Don't get me wrong, I get it. It's not money printer go burr. I get it. I understand. But also at the same time, I think it's foolish to think that that NASA should be worried about cost. Like, why? What do you mean? You're pushing the boundary of space. You're pushing the boundary of space. How the hell do you know how much that's going to cost? Right? You don't know how much it's going to cost. Where's your price point? What are you going to compare it to? You have to have something. Once again, I'm not going to sit here and say that a NASA space station on orbit wouldn't be redundant to commercial stations. Right? Of course it would. It wouldn't, maybe not have that much to offer in the scheme of things. Right? I get it. But also at the same time, that provides you economic sustainability and political sustainability for private and public programs. It is a little bit of redundancy. It's a little bit of redundancy in your architecture to ensure long-term sustainability from an economic and political standpoint. Does that make sense? If we're talking about NASA funding, you have to take that into account. You have to take the sustainability of the program into account. And I think that they do, but I don't think that I'm not going to sit here and second guess the GIO and the Inspector General, or GAO and the Inspector General, but sometimes the GAO talks about sustainability in terms of cost, which doesn't really make a lot of sense considering that you're pioneering a new technology. You can't say that SLS is too expensive. Compared to what? Compared to what? Compared to what? What is it expensive compared to? The other friggin' moon rocket that we have? And even if I know what people are going to say. You're going to say Starship. And even if you could compare it to Starship, you think Elon's just going to open up the books and show that his rocket costs billions of dollars and it's actually, in terms of capability, is comparable on price point per launch? Hell no, he's not going to do that. Because NASA's costs are total costs involved. You hear about the whole thing. The part of the launch cost for SLS is keeping the lights on in the VAB. Just saying. Crawler transporter maintenance, mobile launcher prices, and maintenance. Keeping the lights on at the VAB, keeping the lights on at OSB-1, keeping the lights on at OSB-2, all of Kennedy Space Center. If the NASA program uses that NASA center, it foots the maintenance bill. So the maintenance bill is always going to be high. It's always going to be. If you launch more, then you can offset that maintenance cost with at least some capability, right? You got to scale. Right? We've talked about that before. I won't go too hard into it. Health insurance for the guy who mops the floor. Exactly. You can't compare TCI to price per launch. It's impossible. That's stupid. That's like saying my car costs $150 because that's how much the tires cost to change. Right? It doesn't make any sense. So, like I said, Halsey, go flipping. Okay, we're getting a little too far out there. So, going back to what I was saying, NASA having its own redundant space station is useful as a price point for political and economic sustainability. If the commercials, example, you have your NASA station in low Earth orbit, low cost. This is like Salyut or Skylab or something very low cost, like not complicated, not something that needed 35 assembly missions to fly. It took 20 years to make. All right, this is going to be cheap, disposable station, 10-year lifespan at best, and then build another one, right? Or a 5-year lifespan. Screw it, right? And now you have all your other commercial stations. Say there's a huge recession and all the commercial stations, all those companies fold, like, God forbid, like Vast fold or something, or, it's unlikely Blue pulls out of their orbital reef program and SNC doesn't want to do it anymore. Like, commercial rocket economies are susceptible to recessions. We've seen this in the past. That's how ULA got formed. My solution to this problem, because any idiot can point out a problem, it takes somebody that's not a moron completely, like I still pretty much am, but to point out a solution. The solution to this problem is to provide political and economic sustainability. You have to hit two of those things. You have to hit both of them. Have your public program reinforce your private program, just like the commercial crew and the ISS is doing right now. You can't commercialize the whole thing end to end. If you commercialize the whole thing end to end, you are opening yourself up to lose assured access to space. That is a very, 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 very bad idea. We saw the fruits of that labor after we canceled the shuttle program and then flew on Soyuz, right? We flew on the Soyuz capsule. NASA astronauts flew on Soyuz from 2011 basically all the way to 2020, and they still do. Johnny Kim is flying on MS-28, right? Now, once that happened, it's weird. If you look at the price of a Soyuz launch seat in 2008 versus 2012, man, that's weird. All of a sudden, the price went from $50 million a seat to $90 million a seat. That's weird. You want that? You want that kind of stuff happening? I don't think that's a good idea. You don't want to rely fully on the commercial market because you're volatile. It's volatile to commercial economics, which is inherent to any commercial endeavor in the first place. See what I'm saying? That's why I think NASA needs their own redundant space station. You can compare price point, and if all the other stations fold, you don't need to worry about losing that one. At the very worst case scenario, you could still rely on commercial crew or a commercial crew adjacent program to move people to that station, in which case we revert back to where we are now. You don't want to take one step forward and two steps back. I think that's what's happening with commercial low Earth orbit destinations, but also at the same time, if you make a push for full commercialization of beyond low Earth orbit, it could get to a point where the industry is recession proof or recession enough. It's never going to be fully recession proof, but if we could get spaceflight to airplanes, to where like commercial airliners are right now, then maybe we wouldn't need something like that. I'm not convinced we can hit that point in the next 10 years. Not even close. No way. Does that make sense, Helsigan? Not too big to fail, God. That's something different. But you know what I mean. But what about Tidris? You think it's wise to privatize that? I'm sorry, I don't mean to hit your question with a question, but I just got here. Sorry if this is already addressed. Do you believe SpaceX will just repeat the same pattern? It might be the case. I think Flight 6 is going to be an exact copy of Flight 5, Jow. And the reason why I do is because that's what they have a license for from the FAA. And it's very clear that if the FAA gives you a license and you're SpaceX, do it. You know what I mean? Just sorry, a little bit of a side note. Scaffolding is being removed from the OLM. We're going to see a static fire, Zucha, aren't we? 13 is going to static fire. That's happening tonight. I have a feeling. So, yeah, it totally sad the ESA is stuck onto its butt. At least RFA is based it. I hope they got investors. Exactly, Sandy. You can't rely on one or the other. You rely on one or the other, you're going to have problems. That's not sustainable. Because it's very clear to me, guys, that spaceflight has a problem. The reason we're not dancing around on Mars right at this point is because of two factors. Economic sustainability and political sustainability. Those are the two. You find a way to knock those two birds out with one stone, we're good for a long time. That's why I like Constellation so much, because that's what it was trying to do. And we canceled it because we said it wasn't sustainable, because we're idiots. And then, wouldn't you know, 10 years later, we're saying the exact same thing about SLS. You noticing a pattern here yet? Weird, huh? The only thing that bucks this entire trend is having a healthy commercial program. That's what keeps the government programs going. Just how SpaceX and Boeing-ish are keeping the ISS going with Starliner and Dragon. This would be a lot stronger of an argument if Starliner actually worked the first time. Damn it, but you get what I'm trying to say. They kind of had a license for Flight 5 if they decided to just repeat the splashdown, but they still went on with the paperwork to do the catch. Isn't this exactly the same case? What do you... What's the point of doing the same? Because flight data is king, Jow. Doing the same thing, especially something you have the license for, outweighs the redundancy of the entire test, in my opinion. Not in my opinion. It absolutely will. And logging the ability to get on orbit behind having things on orbit prices smaller vendors out completely. You have to have, you have to have the USPS and you have to have UPS. All right. There has to be some parity here, guys. You have to look, it's not the most efficient or least or cost effective way forward, but it's a way that's going to work. Yeah, Aqualex, for sure. That's a good point as well. Anyway. Hellseekin, does that make sense? Sorry, I started to get a little fired up there. It's mostly because of Hellfish. Because, whatever. But anyway, hopefully, I mean, I put some pretty good thought into this. Hopefully, I thought of all the angles. Who knows? With them laxing restrictions, how long till we see SpaceX put Mechazilla in Australia, ship a booster over there, and watch them do Starship ping pong? It's possible, weather guy. Nice. I just asked that to not consolidate the stream's opinion. I got you. Look, I don't mind if people disagree with me, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, you know, if you disagree with me, that I'm not going to, if I think you're wrong, I will say it. You know what I mean? That's scary, Baron. I forgot to ask, is your neck pain getting less and less? It's subsiding. It still hurts like a mother thousand. Yeah. Sleeping is not something that's agreeing with me right now. Not to be off topic, but I just got to say I'm a big fan of the new mission control screens for Flight 5. Yeah, these are pretty good. Hired Assassin is... I didn't hire him, but he killed someone for this footage in Minecraft. Now, Hired is the one that got me these high-quality pictures. He did a good job. Thanks, buddy. Why ship a booster? Just ship the engines. I'm sure they can build grain silos locally. We're not even talking about doing that, John. You're talking about building a catch tower off the west coast of Australia and then just catching Starship out there. But, I mean, that'd be a good indicator. That'd be a good test for point to point, but I think going full orbital and just doing a deorbit and trying to land back in Texas would probably be a quicker interim goal to get at because building a tower takes time. I agree. I just found it weird that Flight 4 had room for improvement and they still didn't feel like repeating it. But now they must be tired of fighting the FAA. That's very much it, I think. If you asked me Flight 4, what's the next flight going to be like? I would have said like, oh, maybe they'll repeat it, right? Maybe they will. But after what went down with SpaceX and the FAA, I'm pretty sure they're going to take what they can get at this point in time, which is why I think 6 is just going to be a repeat of 5, and it's going to happen a lot quicker than you think.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Exactly, Aqualex, because no matter how bad the USPS is, the moment it goes away, UPS, FedEx, etc. will degrade well past that point. We've seen this already with internet service providers. We decided decades ago we needed a national fiber to the home network to compete, and instead of building it out, we paid telecom companies billions of dollars to do it twice, and look where that got us. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, launching stuff into space is a logistical service. It's a service industry, just like the post office. What does a rocket do but take this thing and move it over there? How is that different than the post office? See what I'm saying? Bingo, Aqualex. Good point. That's right. Exactly. Hey, McCheeto, 57-month resub. How you doing, buddy? Guys, I'm not going to. Okay. First and foremost, why do you think why am I so hell-bent on this? Because I've seen in the past, it's been 50 years since we went to the moon. What the hell is the excuse for not going back? The excuse is bullcrap. It's bullcrap. It's stupid economic and political decisions. We can overcome those with some good integrated programs. I know we did it in the 60s. The last time we did that, we got the Apollo program. Weird, huh? That's strange. I'm not going to sit here and not stop at least talking about it and trying to spread awareness about this topic until it happens, because if we don't, we're opening ourselves up to have what happened, even though it seems highly unlikely right now. We're opening ourselves up to what happened, to consolidation, what happened between Apollo and the space shuttle, and then what happened after the space shuttle stopped flying to commercial crew. Your consolidation in the space industry. Anytime somebody, like it feeds into another theory that I have, that every time somebody at NASA proposes, oh, we can do this for cheaper, NASA has A, gotten the shaft in terms of funding, defunded, and ended up with less capability. That's all bad. Because NASA having these capabilities in the first place is the justification for having commercial crew. Part of the reason why commercial crew was so dang successful is because they compared it to the space shuttle. Right? You compared it to the space shuttle. Right? The space shuttle's too expensive. Falcon 9's less expensive. Starliner and Atlas is something. Atlas is less expensive. I'm not sure about that top part, though. Jury's still out on that one. But also at the same time, the flip side of this is that you can't put all your eggs into the commercial basket. You can't put all your eggs in the commercial basket because you're susceptible to recessions. Now you're susceptible to the market. The market grows and shrinks. We've seen this in the 90s. The commercial launch market collapsed in the wake of the dot-com collapse, and it killed commercial spaceflight endeavors basically until SpaceX came around with Falcon 9, like 10 to 15 years ago. Falcon 9's first flight was in 2010, so 14 years ago, right? Simultaneously, you can't go all the way over here. We saw what happens during the Apollo program if a government has the sole way to get to the surface of the moon and there's no other reason to do it, they'll just say, nah, we don't need this anymore, bye. Let's go fight more wars. They have to be intertwined, guys, no matter what anybody says. It has to be intertwined. If it's not intertwined, we are looking at a potential future that has a very viable, and not probable, but a viable outcome of having no space program. That's bad. I don't think I need to say that. You want what happened during the Apollo era? to the space shuttle era happening again. You want what happened after Constellation, the shuttle got canceled. You don't want that to happen again. You want what happened to, you know, Lockheed Space Systems, Boeing Space Systems, McDonnell Douglas Space Systems. All three of them collapsed in the 90s and they became ULA. True story. You don't want that happening. Trust me on this one. First of all, first and foremost, you don't want that happening because that means the economy is doing very bad. Nobody wants that. Second part is, as spaceflight fans, you don't want that because that's less rockets. That's bad. Market consolidation could kill a space program. And if we're fully commercialized, a recession could take out our entire commercial space program. That's bad. We do not want this. A hybridized system, not all the Apollo program, but not fully commercial end to end, but having both of those exist at the same time, intertwined together, is the best way forward. It's not the most cost-effective way forward, but it's the best way forward that ensures long-term viability of our space program. Okay. Take a break for frick's sakes. Never stop talking. Just keep talking always. Less breathing, more talking. Thank you. Zeb, I don't know what you want. I don't know, Journey. I can't speak to that. Maybe. Expectations for New Glenn? It'll work. It'll land on the first try. More space news. Let's go. So, Stennis has entered into an agreement with Skydweller Aero for the company to operate solar-powered autonomous aircraft in the site's restricted airspace. Why? I'm very confused. The Reimbursable Space Act agreement marks the first between Stennis and a commercial company to utilize the South Mississippi Center's unique capabilities to support testing and operation of uncrewed systems. I was going to say, Zeb, I'm not taking a break. I will not shut the heck up until what I say happens. Damn it, man. Like, what do you want? I don't know what you want. The Reimbursable Space Act agreement marks the first between Stennis and a commercial company to utilize the South Mississippi Center's unique capabilities to support testing and operation of uncrewed systems. There are few locations like NASA Stennis that offer a secure location, restricted airspace, and the infrastructure to support testing and operation of various uncrewed systems. Range operations is a critical area of focus as we adapt to the changing aerospace and technological landscape to grow into the future. They're using the restricted airspace around Stennis to test autonomous flying in other places where it wouldn't be viable. I get it. Cool. Neat. Solar-powered autonomous planes. That's pretty neat. Cool. Ooh, more from Gitai. We are pleased to announce that Gitai's inchworm-type robotic arm has successfully passed all tests and achieves NASA's technological readiness level 6. Ooh. Nice. Following an integrated test conducted in a thermal vacuum chamber, simulating the lunar South Pole environment. Okay, we got a little video here. Giat orbital strikes again. That's a big old vacuum chamber. Thirteen hours later. Nice, Grebo. That's cool. Why would a robotic arm not work in vacuum? I don't know, but you ain't gonna know for sure until you test it. Continuously walking 1,503 steps, approximately 1 mile for over 29 hours. Dude, that's impressive. That's impressive, dude. One 100% imagining a rover that uses a flexible number of these as legs. This thing walks? Yeah, Eddie. It's not the first robotic arm to do it, by the way. Canadarm, the space station remote manipulator system. It can walk around like this. Basically, you have latching end effectors on both ends of the arm, and it can basically monkey bar around the space station. Gitai has the same movement, same degrees of freedom as the Canadarm. It's just a smaller version of it, and obviously it's a little more robust, and you can make a lot of these things. Dude, that's so cool. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Zeb, absolutely. There you go. It's a good point. Cool. This is coming from Adam. Okay, this next bit of news is something that's actually super cool. Maybe I might actually save this one till the end. Yeah, Adam and Chris have some pretty cool tweets. Something happened at McGregor that you guys probably are going to want to see. Let's get through the quick stuff first. So, this is coming from Captain Tom Sullivan. Tom Sullivan is the captain of the ULA's rocket ship, which just got out of dry dock. We shared earlier in Space News that a second sister ship to this is being made called Spaceship. But yeah, good to see ULA is shoring up operations for being able to scale. These ships are used to move cores from their Decatur, Alabama facility, Vulcan cores, and Atlas. Not much longer. Vulcan cores from Decatur, Alabama to the Cape and to Vandenberg in the future. Yeah, super cool. They're really wide ships with a low draft because they're designed to sail up the Mississippi River. But they can also go deep water, which is pretty cool. And it's a big roll-on, roll-off cargo vessel. Alabama's mentioned. Super cool. That rocket ship's out of dry dock. Pretty good. Pretty good. Next bit of news here. Boeing's third quarter 10Q SEC filing says they've taken another $250 million loss on commercial crew in the last 3 months. Yeah. NASA has contracted us to design and build the Starliner spacecraft to transport crews to the ISS. In the second quarter of 2022, we completed the uncrewed orbital test flight. During 2023, we increased the reach forward loss by $288 million, primarily as a result of delaying the crewed flight test. Following notification by a parachute supplier of an issue identified through testing, crew flight test launched on June 5th, 2024 and docked with the ISS. Starliner spacecraft had a minimum mission duration of 8 days. Its return to Earth was delayed to allow time to perform further testing of propulsion system anomalies, and return to Earth in September of 2024. As a result of the CFT delays during the second quarter of 2024, we increased the reach forward loss of the program by $125 million. During the 3 months ended September 30th, 2024, we increased the reach forward loss on the program by $250 million, primarily to reflect schedule delays and higher testing and certification costs. At September 30th, 2024, we had approximately $240 million of capitalized pre-contract costs and $257 million of potential termination liabilities to suppliers related to fixed price unauthorized future missions. Uh-oh. I missed that last line when we looked at this before. Let me read that last line again for the people that were doing something else potentially. September 30th, 2024, we had approximately $240 million of capitalized pre-contract costs and $257 million of potential termination liabilities to suppliers related to the fixed price unauthorized future missions. Risk remains that we may record additional losses in future periods. So that tells me that the termination liabilities to suppliers related to fixed price unauthorized future missions. That tells me that the 6 missions after the contracted Starliner missions, okay, let me explain this. I might be explaining it wrong, you guys tell me. That sounds like basically when Starliner went to suppliers of, sub-assemblies for the capsule, they said, we want you to basically set up shop for like maybe 40 or 50 Starliner missions. Right? And they said, all right, cool, we're going to do that. We'll basically tee up our factory to be able to supply you with, 40 service modules, for instance, right? And now it looks like, that number may have gone down. So that's not ideal. Yeah, potential termination liabilities to suppliers related to fixed price unauthorized future missions. So unauthorized future missions are missions that are out past Starliner 6, which is the 6th contracted flight from NASA. That's not good. I'm telling you, guys, what happened... that could be bad. It could be nothing, whatever. I'm telling you, what happened with the crew flight test was a nightmare scenario. That is a very small problem that should have been identified in testing a long time ago that they screwed up on because their testing wasn't robust enough. You do not want to have problems like that on a crew flight test. It should have never even been allowed to get to that point. The fact that somebody let this thing fly on CFT and somebody said, yep, somebody rubber stamped this thing and said it was good to go is pretty glaring. I mean, Butch and Sonny are fine, and the capsule did come back down okay, but that was a $257 million mistake. Oops. The money that they've allocated to Starliner right now is from all the testing that they did to try and corner the fault tree analysis on the thruster blocks. Basically, they're trying to figure out the problem with CFT-1. Yeah. So somebody rubber stamped a $257 million mistake. If I recall correctly, guys, this is just it popped into my head matter-of-factly. If I recall correctly, Kelly Ortberg, the CEO of Boeing, canned the guy in charge of Boeing Space Systems. Or Boeing Commercial Space. He fired him a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah, might that have something to do with it? Yeah, that probably had something to do with it, because rubber stamping the CFT-1 mission to go is ludicrous in hindsight. And there's like I said, that was a $250 million mistake. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that that's probably the reason why that guy got canned. I have no way to prove that, but that's probably the reason. Yeah, that probably has something to do with it. You don't lose $250 million and keep your job. That's not really how that works. Just putting it out there, it probably had something to do with it. That is exactly what is needed. Agreed, actually. I think that Kelly Ortberg will do a good job. At least I hope. You can't predict the future. But you see, here's the thing. The guy that's running Boeing is an engineer. He's an engineer. He's not some master's degree moron. Kelly Ortberg's an engineer. So him actually canning the guy that runs BCS was that's pretty cool. That's what you're right, Hellfish. I agree with you on that one very much. That is what they need. You need to get the he's an engineer, not an accountant +1. Exactly. That's what they need to hopefully get them out of this funk that they're in. Too many finance bros, dude. Too many finance bros. Ted Colbert, not of space specifically, but defense and space. Yeah, there you go, Josh. Yeah, there you go, Oculus, right? The union vote today determines the company's future. Boeing does a lot more than make airplanes, guys. For instance, Boeing operates the ISS under contract with NASA. So that could be bad. As much as we dump on them, I really, really want them to... I really don't want them to fail. That would be really bad. Anyway, next bit of news. Here's some comedy. Yeah, check this out. So this is coming from China and Asia Spaceflight. Deep Blue is accepting reservations. Only 2 tickets for their suborbital space travel planned for 2027. The ship, 3.5 meters wide, 4 meters tall, 6 seats, 6 windows, 1,200 kilogram payload capacity, 7.9 ton liftoff mass. Travel up to 100 to 150 kilometers with 600 seconds 0G experience. Reuse 50 times. Yeah, that, you know, I think I've seen this somewhere before. Hmm. Nah. It's got to be different. That's got to be different. Those aren't the same. Oh yeah, Dark Side. Yeah, they have a different paint job. You're right. Yeah, one's blue. One's blue. The other one's not. At least one of Boeing's subsidiaries is doing well. Millennium was originally awarded 1 SV and then 3 and now 6 and now 12. The latest announcement was to fill the gap. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, that's good. That's, yeah, okay. So that's funny. All right. So last bit here. Check this out. Don't know if anyone told them those windows are in the plasma flow. There's no plasma on a suborbital vehicle. Give it. It's Temu Dragon. So check this out. Adam and Chris were talking about this. We saw it when it happened, but all right, here. This is coming from McGregor Live, our buddies over at NSF. Check this out. A Raptor was put up on the tripod stand and then tested 34 times consecutively, like every couple of seconds. Watch this. watch. So this was just a little bit of it. They were doing 5 to 10 second duration burns. It's funny because they did 5 of them before the 34 consecutive ones. So I'd say in the span of an hour, this rocket engine fired almost 40 times. The truck driver? Yes, he's fine. Serious question. Do they ever design and develop any of their own technologies? No. No, they don't. They Borg everything. Load cycle, go burr. So, I have a theory about this. First of all, I want to point out the absurdity of doing this with a full flow stage combustion cycle engine that's using fully cryogenic propellants. So guys, this type of test would be used to test startup and shut down transients over a duration of time. Starting up and shutting down rocket engines are the most violent part of the rocket engine's operation by a long shot. Why? Is because a lot of things between the engine being off and the engine being on, a lot of things change really, really fast. A lot of stuff gets really cold really quickly. A lot of machinery that was stationary is now moving very, very fast. There's a lot of gas coming out of the bottom. That's the part that we see, right? There's a lot of things going on really, really quickly. And shutdown is the inverse of that. It's the same thing. You're going from a lot of fire to nothing really, really fast. You're going from turbine machinery spinning at crazy high RPM, 60,000 RPM to nothing. Well, not nothing. My theory is that they just let the turbines just keep spinning, but that's just another story. That's another story. I don't know if that's true or not. They're freewheeling the damn turbines like anti-lag, but I could be wrong. So, this is extraordinarily hard on any rocket engine. Anything. If you tried to do this with a shuttle engine, it would blow up. You tried to do this with a Merlin engine, it'll explode. This is nuts. Like, this is the showing firings right here and like duration of firing. Now NSF has this cool chart, right? Doing stuff like this is very hard on any of the rocket's equipment. Now the crazy thing here is that this thing did it 39 times over the course of like maybe 30 minutes. 34 of them consecutively, like shutting it off, shutting it back up, turning it on, turning it back off, turning it on, turning it back off. Which prompted a lot of people asking, like, why? What's the point of this test? Yeah, incorporating an electric sustainer pre-spin on the pumps. Yeah, Aglex, right? Like that turbine thing that we saw yesterday. Why not? Sure, 619. Yeah, I mean, why not? Let's test it. See what you can really put a Raptor through, like put it through its paces, right? See what happens. But we've kind of already proven that Raptors have pretty damn good reliability. I have a theory, if you guys care to hear it. My theory is that that's a Raptor 3. This is a Raptor 3 on the test stand. And they're beating the snot out of it on purpose. A rocket theory, yes. See above? No, Nick, don't take my thunder away, you jerk. I think this is a Raptor 3. There's no reason to do something like this with a Raptor 2. But, in before, this is one of Booster 12's engines. That was the other thing I was toying around with, Phil, that this might be an engine from a flown booster. Because why would you stress test something? Like, who knows? Phil, another alternative, a tertiary alternative that I was thinking about here is that this is Booster 11's motor, one of Booster 11's engines. We know they're at McGregor. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if, dude, Like, if it's Raptor 3, I'd be like, yep, okay. If it's Booster 12, I'd be like, damn, that's cool. But if it's one of Booster 11's engines, I'd be like, wait, what? I mean, we don't know what it is, but those are my 3 prevailing theories, dude. I don't think that it is. It's most likely, I would say the highest, if it's any one of those, it's probably Booster 12's motors, if it's any one of them. I'm not sure if it's Raptor 3 because we would have seen them do some construction on this test stand, right? To kit it out for Raptor 3. I don't know. I'd have to ask Alex to see if that's happened or something, right? You think they could convert Raptor 3 to Hydrolox? No. You'd have to completely redesign the turbine equipment, James. No. Raptor 3 is just a bolt-on. If it can't fail in extreme conditions while testing, it won't fail in normal conditions while on a live mission. Yeah, TJ, that's a good point. Like I said, doing that to a rocket engine. All right, so like, here comes the car analogy. Didn't expect that from EJ. The guy with the Ford hat is thinking about this in terms of cars. Wow, big surprise. No, doing what they're doing there is like putting your foot to the floor on the on the gas pedal on a car and then turning the engine on and off while your foot's buried in it. The engine is basically going from 0 to like red line, 0 to red line, 0 to red line, 0 to red line, 0 to red line. That's really bad for a car engine. It's even worse for a rocket engine. Yet this Raptor is just sitting there going, I didn't hear no bell. I didn't hear no bell. Elon, I didn't hear no bell. Adrian. You know, it's just like, it's not how much hits you can do, it's how many times you get hit in the face. Where's my sandwich? It's just sitting there taking the punches, no problem. Which is pretty ridiculous. That's insane. Adrian, Elon, where are you? Where are you? What? The car analogy actually hurt a little. Brian, that's what I mean. That's what that's doing. To that poor rocket engine is getting the crap kicked out of it. But it's like watching a freight train derailling. It's like, I don't want to stop. Is it going to blow up? You know? Like, hold my beer. Yeah, there you go. Bro, you're my cold started engine red line. That's exactly what's going on. Like, it can't be a cold start, though, Josh, right? Because you got to thermally condition the motor. Or else you're going to have other problems in operating temperature, right? So we know it's primed and probably thermally conditioned. But even then, that's still that's insane that this motor's just like, yeah, it's fine. I hear no bell. You know? How are they restarting it? Pneumatics to spin the turbine, 619. Or they're freewheeling it. I had a theory on how they're able to relight this engine really quickly a long time ago, and it basically was an anti-lag system. Like an anti-lag on a car. Basically, some type of using the autogenous pressurization on Raptors as a tap-off to basically have an anti-lag system. What is an anti-lag? Okay, so anti-lag on a car is used on a car with a turbocharger. And basically the idea is to keep the turbo spool so you don't get any turbo lag. So turbo lag happens when you rev an engine. The engine has to go up in RPM and it has to produce enough exhaust to actually start pressurizing and spinning the turbine to actually create boost for your car. An anti-lag system, basically, an anti-lag, you've heard it. Idiots on the street if you're in the US have this all the time. They do it to make people scared or something. Like if the car is just sitting there and somebody gets on the revs and you hear the exhaust go pop 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 pop. That's an anti-lag system. It basically keeps the turbine spinning. It keeps the turbine spinning. That's all. Yeah, you ignite fuel in the exhaust. It's basically like an afterburner for a car, but it's just once again, what it's trying to do is keep that turbine wheel spinning. I have a theory, and this is me completely pulling this out of my tail. I don't know. When it comes to propulsion engineering, I am a very big amateur when it comes to this, so whatever. If there was some way to have a tap off with a pressurization system from the autogenous pressurization that Raptor has, you could use the residual pneumatic pressure to keep the turbine spinning. The crazy part about that, though, means that your turbine is spinning, but you're not moving any fluid. If that is the case, that could most likely cause extreme cavitation in the turbine machinery, which could make what they're doing even more crazy. But once again, that's just my opinion. Who knows? Elon said they removed the igniter. They removed the main igniter, Erudite. You don't need to have it. You don't need to have an igniter in your injector plate on a stage combustion cycle. Your pre-burner is already igniting things. Just putting it out there. They could dump it back before the turbine. Yeah, Mutter, can you imagine if the autogenous pressurization system is connected to a COPV and that COPV is connected back into the gas generators or the pre-burners? You could spool. You could create you could do an anti-lag system for a rocket. It works. What I would worry about at that point is cavitation from your impellers. That's what I would really worry about. But once again, complete amateur when it comes to this stuff. If I said a lot of big words, basically, ha ha ha, ha Raptor, go, don't worry about it. It's fine. Yeah, there you go, James. Exactly, right? Here's a time lapse of all the firings. Oh, LSR. LSR, are you here this time? You out there, buddy? Dude, see that? Off, on, off, on, off, on. That is so nuts that that's happening, dude. But the turbine spins at thousands of RPMs. Aren't the pumps directly attached to the turbine shaft? They are, Snake. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'd worry about cavitation on the pumps if that's what you're doing. Snake, it's either that or they figured out a way to get those pumps within seconds of going from 0 RPM to 60,000 RPM, back to 0 RPM, back to 60,000 RPM. Or at least, having the turbines start to slow down and then immediately pushing them back up to 60,000. That's crazy, dude. That is even then, like even the most basic explanation for what's going on is still nuts. Rocket engines, dude, no rocket engine can do that. No rocket engine can do that. That is insane. Hey, Tej, are we still alone? I don't know, maybe. Maybe we should go find out. A beefy electric motor could do that, possibly. Well, that's another form of anti-lag system, Aqualex. That one really hasn't reached the, the aftermarket, you know what I mean? Right, Joshua? Isn't it crazy, dude? Yo, on three possibly, what was added for all three? Booster 11? On 3 possibilities, what would this... A for all 3. Booster 11, Raptor from the seabed, Booster 12 or Raptor 3. What would impress you the most? Booster 11 would impress me the most, Grebo. If this was a Raptor engine that had been sitting underwater for 3 months, and they took it, refurbed it, and put it on the stand, and they're doing that with it, that's ridiculous. Honestly, that's the one that would impress me the most out of the 3 possibilities I floated. If that's a Booster 11 Raptor engine, I would blow a gasket. That's ridiculous. But I don't think it is. It's more likely from Booster 12, but it also is probably about equally as likely that it could be a Raptor 3. Floated. Yeah. That's insane, dude. That's ridiculous. Completely nuts. What are the bearings in the turbines? Did they ever release it? There is no bearing, Zeppelin. No mechanical bearing, that is. Where's the sound? I shut it. I didn't have the sound on, Smutty. How soon before they're doing the exact same thing? Yeah, Nick, they wish they had propulsion like this. How soon? Not very. Our propulsion is light years ahead of theirs. Light years. What are all the...
Tranquility Base here.
Man O'Hogs.
So today I heard the news that, due to bankruptcy, old MacDonald has to sell his farm to cover what he owes.
You aren't anti-lagging a hydrostatic bearing. What if they just keep the impeller submerged and close the valves? We know there's a valve post-impeller. Just saying. Also, frick that joke and frick the person that sent it. I'll give you your damn dollar back. I'll give you your damn dollar back, you fool. Anyway, no, it's kind of funny. All right. Anyway, not really. Moving on. I mean, like I said, it could be an anti-lag system, God, but it's more likely using the pneumatic spin start systems that we've seen with Raptor. They could be using the autogenous pressurization to pressurize the COPV. And then instead of keeping the turbine's anti-lag going, right, to keep the turbine RPM up, they could just start it again. As long as you have residual COPV pressure from the initial autogenous pressurization, sure, you could do the same thing. I'll just send a different one. Yeah, I know you will. Whatever. Speaking of HLS, do you have any idea what they'll do to land on the moon? They'll probably fire their engines before they hit the ground in order to land successfully. Hey, you asked. The vertical stand had a 2-week downtime before the first Raptor 3 firing, so I would expect at least 1 week of downtime on the tripod if this was Raptor 3. Yeah, Phil, like I said, the most likely thing is that it's a Booster 12 Raptor. But it would be cool if it was a Raptor 3, and it would be even cooler if it was a Booster 11 Raptor, right? There is no bearing is taking the best part is no part, terrifyingly far from a mechanical design perspective. Poison, you need to be terrifyingly far away from established design meta to achieve 300 bar chamber pressure. Like I said, nothing like Raptor has ever existed before. That engine is insane. Like, if you had that engine in Kerbal, you could just use it to do everything. It could just do everything. Like, landing engine, sure, deep throttleable. First stage engine, sure, whatever. Second stage engine, even better. Just put a nozzle on it, whatever. Vector engine, boom, right? Like, Raptors can just do anything. And we don't know if they removed engines from 12, Butter. That moment when you can't import in real life stuff because it would be too OP. Yeah, right. Any update on the engine position for HLS? Nah, not that I've seen, Greenbow. It was a total shut-off between bursts, or they kept it at low like when the booster came in. Alex, it's hard to say without actually seeing the engine, man. It's hard to say if it's like on low power. I'm pretty sure it's shut off because of the flames that you see shooting out. That's the purge system. Immediately after a rocket engine fires, you can get residual thrust where you don't want it if you don't flood the combustion chamber. In Raptor's case, it's the CO2 suppression system. The same thing that snuffed out the fire on Booster 12 when it came back in and landed. See this big kind of flash and then everything goes out right there? That's what I'm talking about. What do you call a wizard that leaves hickeys on his significant other? A neck romancer. EJ, your background videos of Starship getting caught are slightly out of sync and I might have to unsubscribe. Oh, they went out of sync. Crap, they were in sync before, but one video's... Paul, one video's a little longer than the other, man. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. Sorry, man. It's not my fault. Sorry, my man. You think he's going to be okay? Do I have to sync them? Hired, that is entirely up to you, dude. Do you support the idea of only having one HLS landing test prior to putting people on it? Yes. Yeah, sure, Shazos. How else are you going to do it? What are you going to do? Are you going to land it twice? Actually, interestingly enough, dude, the NASA contract for HLS calls for one uncrewed landing demonstration. What SpaceX does with that thing after that is up to them. The contract calls for one uncrewed landing. If I know SpaceX, and I'd like to think that I've been covering them for a long time, I'm pretty sure that SpaceX is going to want their lander back, if you catch my drift. I thought I heard Elon say early on in the catch chat that problem with the catch was the reflective shock from the engine being too close to the ground. It's the vibrations, Grebo. They turned on the sound suppressor to fix that problem. If you notice, you can't see it in these pictures. Sound suppressor is on when the booster landed. Have you used the newer Dremels? They use motor as an electric brake to stop the bit near instantly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Aqualex. I haven't used them, but I know about those. Yep. You know, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying we would have seen some electric motors attached to a Raptor at this point, if what you're saying is right. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, though. Right? Zarek, so new question here. SpaceX has great accuracy on Earth. Can they have a similar accuracy on the moon? Yes. Zarek, with relative navigation, and that's kind of the new hotness for any landing. I'm not sure if Falcon 9 uses it. I don't think Super Heavy uses it either. But with a lander for another that goes onto another celestial body, you can use what's called RN, or terrain relative navigation. TRN, right? Terrain relative navigation basically is a computer that's trained on pictures of the surface where you want to land, and it uses those pictures to pick a landing spot in real time. Just like if a pilot was looking out the window, okay, like what Neil Armstrong did on Apollo 11. Apollo 11 was going to come down basically on a rock, and Neil Armstrong actually pulsed the engine, did a suborbital hop with the lander. He didn't land it once, he got close, took manual control of the thing, pulsed the engine, and then landed in the Sea of Tranquility in an open area. Relative navigation can do that without any humans in the loop. Yeah, so if HLS is using a form of relative navigation, yes, it absolutely can. Yeah, they'll absolutely nail the landing. The computer knows if the computer knows where the ground is, it knows where the ground isn't. The missile knows where it is at all times. It knows this because it knows where it isn't. By subtracting where it is from where it isn't, it's developed a deviation, and its variation, which is called error. Like the Tomahawk. Like the Tomahawk, except backwards. Tomahawks most likely use inertial navigation, but Victory, but I don't know, maybe. That's cool. So them landing multiple payloads next to each other is totally possible. Oh, that's already been tested. Not by SpaceX, but bro, we tested that in the 60s. That was proven in 1969, dude. I mean, Aqualex, it'd be cool. It's a good idea. Did he use a side mirror? No, the windows, Alex, you could look down. That is a picture of Pete Conrad's taking the picture, and Al Bean is at Surveyor 3. Apollo 12, you'd think that the next moon mission after the first one, right, wasn't going to be... that big of a deal. But Apollo 12 proved you can land two things next to each other on the moon. Or at least you can rendezvous enough to get it close. Apollo 12 landed, I don't know, 100 meters away from Surveyor 3. And they went and took equipment off of Surveyor 3, put it in the LEM, and brought it back. Only time it's ever been done. Oh, don't worry. SpaceX will probably fix this real soon. So will NASA. But anyway. Oh, it's good to know, Victory. But anyway, yeah, Surveyor. You want to read about a ridiculous program from JPL? Surveyor was a two-stage lander. You heard that right, two-stage lander. But not how you think. Surveyors were launched on an Atlas Centaur, if math serves me left, and put on a direct insertion from translunar injection to the ground. No circularization. The first stage for a Surveyor was a solid rocket booster. And then it landed on RCS after that. Yeah, an SRB to basically get an SRB to slow yourself enough down so where the RCS on Surveyor could land you. That's what. Yeah, Surveyor is nuts. Yeah.
Discovery.
If that sounds like it wouldn't work, well, yeah, it didn't work a couple of times. But sometimes it did work. Do you think SpaceX is too optimistic on humans on Mars by 2028? Here's the thing, dude. Before this, I would have said, yeah, that's probably not happening. But, dude, this is so much of a game changer. I actually am kind of starting to believe that. But in Elon's own words, SpaceX takes the impossible and makes it late. So maybe the end of the decade. Maybe. What is that thing next to his leg extended out? It's one of the tools to collect lunar regolith, if I'm remembering right. I don't know exactly what it is. It's one of the scientific instruments on a Surveyor. If my math turns me left. Yes, Eric. Yeah. Wasn't Japan a two-stage lander? Just kidding. The engine nozzle doesn't get slim. Dude, I can't believe that thing is still working. How is that possible? Hey, whatever. And then it pooped that little ball rover out that's basically a toy with a camera on it, and that's still working too. All right. Sure. When he said humans on Mars, did he say safely? I don't know. I think he wants to launch uncrewed stuff in 2028, man. I mean, I would still say 2028 is a tall bet, but that moved from like, now there's no way to, okay, that's probable but unlikely because of that. Guys, Josh, I'm not going to say that they're going to do it in 2028, dude, but also at the same time, from everything that I've seen, and keep in mind, I don't have any insider information. Nobody's whispering sweet nothings in my ear about what SpaceX is doing. But if I'm looking at how all this is panning out, Starship is about to get insane. It's going to get nuts. We're going to, if I'm looking at how this is all kind of coming together, this is my guess. I don't know if it's true. This is just a guess. I'm going to go ahead and guess that SpaceX is probably going to target like 12 Starship missions next year, probably once a month. Yeah, that's my guess, if not more. They have to. The reason why I have this opinion is because they have to. They have to deliver that HLS. And if you're going to do that, right, and you're going to start mass producing these ships because they just built that big factory down there that's going to start cranking out Starships sooner rather than later, right? Star Factory, you're you're going to need to scale to complete the SLS, not the SLS, the HLS contracts. You're going to need to scale. You have to scale. Elon is probably the foremost expert on scaling stuff in the country. Probably like maybe Jeff Bezos. And fun fact, both those guys are working on building out their own space programs, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to say that's pretty neat. You can hate billionaires if you want. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Just saying. But yeah, they're going to have to. You have to. Starship is going to pick up speed. And honestly, nailing that booster catch on the first try is huge, because getting flight data on this is the most valuable thing. Okay, I might eat my words on this. You guys can point and laugh at me if I'm wrong in the future and say, haha, EJ, you said this on October 23rd, 2024 at 7:45 p.m. You're an idiot. In which case you're probably right. If you're going back in the VOD and finding this because I was wrong about something, yeah, okay, good job. Good job. Post it and make fun of me. I don't care, whatever. I would say that another booster, a booster catch missing at this point is highly unlikely. They might have some problems here and there, but I'd say from here on out, the vast majority of these boosters will probably make it back, if not all of them. The reason, like a failure will be highly unlikely. The reason is because that right there is an insane amount. That data, the flight data behind what happened here is invaluable. That is an insane game changer. And part of the reason why I think SpaceX is teeing up Flight 6 so quickly is that they're trying to prove that this wasn't a fluke. I don't think it is. You have the data to back it up now. You have your analytical data and you have flight data to back it up. Flight data is king in proving out engineering understanding. It's king. It's very, once again, you can point at me and say I'm wrong. It's fine. You know, because I can't predict the damn future. But I think that in the future, I think it'll be very unlikely that SpaceX is going to lose a booster. Don't get me wrong, you know, Murphy's Law and everything, but also very unlikely. You think Lunar Starship is going to be built in the VAB? It's going to be built at Starbase. There's no other Starship factories yet. Oh yeah, I think the launch capability will be there well before 2028. But in terms of human-capable hardware, I don't know. Polaris 2 is on the or Polaris 3 is on the books, Josh. That's a human-rated Starship mission. Just putting it out there. Like I said, I don't think people are going to be able to understand the scale that Starship is going to hit us with. It's going to come on a lot faster than Falcon 9 did. Dumb question. Would you agree to go to Mars in 2028, 2030 if SpaceX offered you to go there? Only if I understood the mission very well, H, and there was a viable way to get back home. I'm not staying on Mars forever. My wife probably wouldn't let me, though. They'll need a booster processing bay. Yeah, Squig. Once again, not saying it couldn't be done, but... Zeb, we do know they faked some of the pictures and recreated what they did on Earth. No, that's bull crap. No, they didn't. They didn't fake the pictures. We know this because there's pictures of them on the moon. That is not a... Apollo 12 Surveyor 3 is not a recreation, dude. Because the video tech was not good enough to take quality pictures? Dude. How is a photograph video technology? Go ahead. I'll wait. That's a photograph. That wasn't taken from video. It was a photograph. It has NASA's hash marks on it. It was taken with a camera. A Hasselblad camera, if you really want to know. They sent really nice cameras to the moon. Hasselblads are still, to this day, like one of the most expensive cameras from that era. They're very, very well sought after. That's a picture, dude. It ain't video. And to say video quality. Point still stands, dude. What are you talking about? Of course they went to the moon. Like... Okay, Zeb, let's get down to brass tacks. It's not a recreation. They didn't recreate photos. They maybe did it. They maybe did some photos in the training modules that they had. And people that don't know anything about spaceflight testing and just presume because they think they know better, say, oh, it's a fake photo. They did a lot of training out in the desert because that's the closest analog that we have here. They had a lot of training simulations. They had a lot of, not set pieces, but training grounds that were designed to mimic the surface of the moon. This is something that they literally still do to this day. In fact, a guy that I know on Twitter has footage literally this morning of one of those testing grounds. I actually saw this morning and I thought I'd bring it up. They're testing regolith propagation in one of these things, so you're probably confusing the recreation with this type of stuff. It's a recreation. No, they're probably testing something. Now, second of all, here's the big one. Dude, we went to the moon. We went to the moon 6 times. You know how we know? The Soviet Union confirmed that we did. Think about it for a second. Think about it. Soviet Union said we did. At the height of the Cold War in the 1960s, Soviet Union's like, yeah, they did that. Of course they did. You know how they knew? They sent Luna 15 to go and spy on us when we landed on the moon. There's footage of it. It's out there. It's video footage, and the video footage sucks because it's 480p from 1968, or 1969, excuse me. Why would the Soviet Union admit to that? Why would they admit that they lost the space race? See what I'm saying? The Russians are going to be like, yeah, they beat us. No way. Not a chance. Not a chance unless we absolutely did. Before people say, oh, we fooled them. You're telling me we fooled the country that launched the first person and satellite into space? First extravehicular activity, first probe on the surface of Mars, first probe on Venus. You said we fooled them? Yeah, nice try. Keep coping. Hasselblad is still in business and they're insanely expensive. Exactly, dude. Nah. Zeb, dude, kick that theory can kick rocks, man. And how did they get video from the surface of the moon? You never heard of rabbit ears on a television? You must be young. You know what I'm saying, brother? Nah, man. You can easily show that this stuff was not fake. It's not hard. How deep is the lunar regolith? Snake, it depends on what regions of the moon that you land in. The lunar highlands are very different. It's a very different type of regolith, or dirt. That's a nice way of saying dirt from another planet. The regolith is definitely different from the highlands than it is in the Mar, which is the lowlands, which are the dark gray spots on the moon that we see. Those are the seas. Ocean of Storms, Sea of Tranquility, stuff like that. Taurus Littrow. Those are the only places the Apollo missions landed. They didn't land in the highlands. None of them did. Dirt has organics and microbes. Thank you. I'm educated now.
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
I am a natural satellite and I will stay out of this
I don't play
drama.
Star Citizen out of fear of getting addicted. I play that game, my wife will never see me again. It's probably not a good idea. I'm 33 years old from Bumfrick, Iowa. Yeah, Zeb, you can ask me anything about it. Like, as long as you're genuinely curious, dude. We didn't fake that. We didn't fake that nonsense. That dude, it would have been hard to fake 1/6 gravity. I know people are gonna say, oh, just what about a bungee line? Dude, still. Dude, some of the stuff you see them doing walking around the moon doesn't look natural. You know why it doesn't look natural? Because it's in 1/6 gravity. It's literally easier to probably send somebody to the surface of the moon than it would be to try and fake it. Not a chance. Oh, nice floating. Yep. You should get into Star Citizen when the single player comes out. Yeah, think about it. I believe for those who struggle, it may be helpful to know that we've installed laser reflectors on the moon. Drum, that is a very good example, but the average person doesn't know what a laser reflector is, so it's not something that I can tell an average person. Now, I mean, I'll talk about it. Every Apollo mission had a laser range finding experiment. People still use these rangefinders from the 6 landing sites. Now, once again, I know you know this. I'm just saying this for context, right? They still use the laser rangefinders to see the moon's position relative to Earth and see where what gravitational perturbations are doing to the moon. Because the moon has tidal forces. The moon tugs on our oceans, right? But guess what? Every time Jupiter gets kind of near us, it's going to pull the moon a little bit. It's going to pull us too, for what it's worth. Yeah, those rangefinders we still use today. Those experiments are still working. Yeah, Urist, exactly. He will answer anything because he doesn't give a frick about anything. He just says, what is the truth? BA, I'm confident enough in my knowledge, and I'm confident enough. I've seen enough evidence, and I know enough about spaceflight to know that this stuff wasn't faked. How are you going to fake a Saturn V launch? Like, the Soviet Union saying we did it is the biggest. That's the ace in the hole. That's the ace card, man. You would say we fooled the Russians? Not a chance. No way. That would be, dude, you don't need to, if you know about how like radio transmissions work and how in-space imaging works and stuff, this would have been, no, not a chance. No way. That's way too complicated to just do it. Just go and do it. Doing it is easier. I didn't understand what SpaceX was planning for the recovery of the ship. Will they try and recover it with chopsticks or land it near the pad? They're trying to catch it with Mechazilla H. Yeah, BA, we're going place. Sorry for opening this wormhole. You're so knowledgeable. No, Zeb. Like I said, as long as you're just genuinely curious. And once again, I'm not trying to, people have dissenting opinions. People are contrarian. And I'm not going to be able to convince anybody. That's why I don't try to. I only answer the question if A, I know you're not full of crap and you're not trying to screw with me, because 90% of the moon hoax things are just trolls. And if you're coming from a place of innocence, you genuinely want to know. I can give you several good concrete pieces of evidence that we absolutely did. Like, I have a bunch more teed up if you wanted to know. Like, dude, I know a lot about propulsion. I'm just a layman. Like, dude, I'm not an engineer. I don't work for NASA. I have no reason to just, you know, yeah, like, Zeb, let me put it to you like this. With all the crap that I give NASA nowadays, do you think I'm running cover for them? Absolutely not.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
No freaking way. I'm pissed at what they did with what they've done with Viper, Chandra, you know, JPL, how Dragonflies go. I'm so ridiculously annoyed. Why would I run cover for them? Frick them. Fix your space program. You know what I mean? But, like, I know enough about this stuff that I know that I don't need to run cover, and I'm confident that I can answer most questions that people have. It's pretty straightforward stuff. The other thing you got to understand is that if it seems far-fetched for 1960s technology, right? Like, we look at the Apollo and say, oh, how did they do that without computers? Dude, Apollo is the reason why you have something like this. Because in order to get a flight computer to accurately land on the moon, you need to make it small enough and light enough to fit on a spacecraft. That is the lasting contribution of the Apollo program. This thing doesn't exist without the Apollo guidance system being pioneered. No way. Not a chance. That'll happen maybe, that would have happened maybe in another 50 years. Apollo put us light years ahead of, like, the technological curve in terms of digital processing, miniaturization of digital processing. That's super huge. That whole thing led to the personal computers in the 70s and led to computers doing everything, like computers being something that's easy to make in the 80s and mass produce. And then that led to the internet in the 90s. Well, actually, missile systems led to the internet in the 90s, but I digress. When was the first computer built? In the modern era, the first computer is the ENIAC. There have been ideas of, like, Abacus is being used as computers, but that's the ENIAC. No, not that stuff that you just see sitting on the wall. The entire room is the ENIAC. It is a vacuum tube transistor. Well, not even that's actually, sorry, that's not even transistors. That's just vacuum tubes for logic. It is, yeah, it was the size of like a school gymnasium, dude. Where was the first computer built? The BRL building, BRL building 328. The Ballistic Research Laboratory. Yeah. The reason why, okay, so I know you're wondering why the Ballistic Research Laboratory. They use this computer to do the trigonometric calculations behind coordinating artillery fire, if you really want to know. That's why the Ballistic Research Laboratory looked into it. Turns out that with trigonometry and calculus, you could figure out where a shell is going to land pretty accurately. It's the reason why, to this day, that every artillery, forgive me, I'm just a civilian. What would you call it? Artillery battalion has a mathematician attached to it. Yeah, there's a very good point. There's a very good reason for that. Very patriotic pushing from the UK, but dang, the Saturn V makes you jealous. Yeah, Elite, where's your damn rocket? You guys are smart. You guys aren't idiots. You made stuff like the Spitfire and the Lancaster. You guys are good. You guys can make one. You guys are smart enough. I know you are. And that, you're working on it right now. Look at what's going on in Shetland and Saxiford, man. You ain't gonna need to be jealous sooner rather than later, dude. Math equals death. Yeah. Pretty cool, huh? That's the oldest one I can think off the top of my head, Zeb. But yeah, still cool. They had the lipstick rocket. Yeah, the Black Arrow. Yep. Hey, Jackery, what's going on? Your grandfather helped build the ENIAC. Then he decided to change professions and designed transportation bridges instead. Oh, that's still cool. Yeah, there's Colossus. The ENIAC was the oldest one I could think of off the top of my head, guys. Cyprus has joined the Artemis Accords. Oh boy. Oh, Colossus during World War II. Yeah. To help encrypt cryptanalysis of the Lorentz cipher. Cool, man. That's actually super cool. It's neat. I live in Scotland. I'm dying to see a rocket launch soon. RFA had a little bit of a setback in Saxiford, though. That sucks. They'll be back, though. Not worried. Ariane 6 is the best. Yeah, it's the best if the year was 2012. I'm going to refuse to elaborate on that one. Let's keep going. Any other Q&A you guys want to do? We're getting to the top of the hour. Two transfer windows between now and the end of 2028. Nice. Discord. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Yeah, you did. Second. I look over and I have like 30 DMs here. Yeah, Hired. I'm not gonna do this. We'll mess with this later, but I'm sure it's fine. Do we know if the Raptor 3s are more costly to produce? Probably the machines that made that stuff is more costly to produce, think like, and the development is probably what's the most costly. But Raptors seem like they're a lot less. Raptor 3 seem like they're a lot less complicated because they don't have a lot of electrical systems. The fluid management system on Raptor is the reason why it's so trick, like why it looks so bare bones. Yo, what the hell? What the heck is that? You need to do a deep dive into analytical engine at some point. Yeah, maybe. Did they use the Apollo computers or communication to land on Mars, or do they use a different architecture? The architecture is definitely stemmed from its 7, but, you know, like Perseverance used relative navigation, which I'm not sure relative navigation really can trace back to the AGC, but it certainly enabled the equipment that could get something like that done. You might get your static fire. Scaffolding is pretty much gone with the cherry pickers and clutter. Been a while since I've seen a night static fire. Yeah, baby. Thoughts on the Enigma movie and how they presented everything? Yeah. The Enigma movie? No, I'd have to go look. I burned through a lot of information cardboard, so I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and watch it again. Guys, it's always going to be expensive to develop rocket engines. RE Raptor 3 cost. It's always going to be expensive to develop rocket engines. You're only going to get your money back if you can achieve profitability with that. And with rockets, that generally means scale. But the scale has to, you only scale rocket engine production to bring the cost down if the demand is there. And last time I checked, SpaceX's Starship has a lot of Raptor engines. And it's going to launch Starlink satellites, which there's a very high demand for because Starlink is pretty dang profitable. Bob, I'm all right. My neck is still stiff. I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm kind of not like moving around too much. It's still a bit stiff. The Imitation Game. I'm sorry. I don't know why I called it that. The Imitation Game. I don't think I've ever seen that movie cardboard. Give me 1 second. Hang on. Give me 1 second. I'm replying to Jack.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Okay, cool. You need to see him in Imitation Game. It's as good as Oppenheimer. Cool. It's a very good movie. All right. Cool. With Cabbage Patch Cumberpants. Oh, that guy. Yeah, that guy's good. Have you seen videos from the Plasma Channel? Do you think his optimism in atmospheric ionic thrust is valid, or has that reached its technological limit? I'm not familiar with the channels, Eric. It's on Plex for you when you want. Thank you. I'm sorry, what did I just hear? I don't know. Okay, guys, we're getting up to, it's a little past 8 o'clock. That was a good space news. We saw rocket launches. We saw capsules undock. We saw boosters land. We talked about Raptor engines being used and abused on the test stand. It's pretty good, man. I'm still freaking out about that ramjet engine that we saw yesterday. Dude, that thing was super cool. That thing was super cool. We will be following your career with great interest. That place is baller, man. That's such a good idea. I'm sorry, what did I just hear? Wait, what do you mean? The movie with Bendicott Cumbersnatch? What's his name? No, I said his name right. That's his name. No problem, Matt. The fact that they fired it in an average industrial complex is amazing. No, I dig it, man. It's pretty cool. Benadryl Cobblestone. Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah, Doctor Strange. Yeah, that guy. Bandicoot Cabbage Patch. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Yes. You made a meat lun prod. That's a pretty applicable meme. Yep. Bumblebee Cummerbund? Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Dr. Y. That's pretty good. Cucumber Bandersnatch? Yeah. No, maybe not him. Also, Dr. Y. That's pretty funny, dude. Dina Dick, sorry about that. It's okay. Thanks, Thor. Bandicoot Crash a Bunch? No, I think that guy's name is Lance Stroll. Dr. Bendover. This is breaking my brain. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Bender Drill Camber Hatch? That's a nice car. Eggs Benedict Waffle House. Okay. Bandicoot Crash and Bash? That sounds like an N64 game. Don't even get me started on Stroll. Sorry. Have you talked about Astra's new contract? Yeah, I talked about it and I said I thought it was a good thing and then chat promptly disagreed with me, but that's fine. I told them why they're wrong. Benadryl Camberqueel? Okay. All right. We don't need to do that anymore. We've peaked. We're good. Get strolled. All right. Back to Satisfactory. Let's go. So, you know the drill. On the YouTube end of things, this is going to do it. I'm going to start up another YouTube stream for Satisfactory so, you know, the VODs get uploaded appropriately. On Twitch, don't go anywhere. Just going to flash the title screen for about, I don't know, a minute or two. On the YouTube side of things, this is going to conclude Space News. And on Twitch side of things, it's going to conclude Space News. But on the YouTube side of things, it's going to conclude the stream too, right? Everybody got that? Once we get the combination to the air shield, we can force her father, King Roland, to give us the combination of the air shield, thereby destroying planet Druidia and saving planet Spaceball. I didn't say that right, did I? Everybody got that? All right, cool, sweet. I'm still kind of sad about Danny Rick. Yeah, cardboard, I know. Anyway, I'll see you guys over on the YouTube stream in the next one. Twitch, stay here. Don't worry, you don't need to go anywhere. I am going to switch over to Satisfactory now. Brain moving faster than mouth. Be back in a moment.